Chapter 176. How is this possible? You are a natural thunder god. The power of thunder will absolutely obey your orders. Who can snatch your control over thunder? Even if the inhumans have some magical qualities, it is impossible for them to affect the gods. This is a huge joke. Thor, you are kidding me, right? When Loki heard what Thor said, he didn't believe it. But when he thought about how he had let Qin Mu go and what he said before he left, he became a little uncertain. On the way, Thor did not explain the situation to Loki, so Loki was not clear about the details. Interesting, this strange man actually has such ability. The originally calm and unperturbed god King Odin became interested. He didn't think that Thor, the carefree god of thunder, would lie. His divine qualities were obvious to all in Asgard. Besides, he was his own son, and he didn't believe that his own son would lie to his father. He turned his head and looked at Loki beside him. Loki, you are also at fault in this matter. You should go with the goddess Freya. Loki, who was called out, looked reluctant. He really didn't want to go there. I get threatened or cheated every time, it's so frustrating. Before he knew it, he thought of secretly informing Qin Mu. This way, you can gain his trust. Let him not expose his affairs. Just like that, Loki, who had ulterior motives, and the bright, charming, and gorgeous goddess Freya set out. Thor was afraid of being restrained by him, so he stayed in Asgard and did not go with him. At this time, Qin Mu had already arrived in the human world, Midgard, also known as the Atrium. The sky and the earth gradually darkened, and a touch of the afterglow of the sunset illuminated the entire sky and the earth, as if covering the world with a layer of golden blanket. Qin Mu controlled the flying sword, which kept flying and circling in the sky, as agile as a bird. Below him is the winding Kyangshan Mountains, which are long, towering, green, and full of vitality. From time to time, you can see various animals jumping and running, and hear the crisp sounds of birds and beasts singing. He heard that there was a powerful dragon in this area. Most Western dragons are the same. They look like lizards with wings, two pointed horns on their heads, and are covered with scales. They are invulnerable to swords and spears, and cannot be invaded by water or fire. What is even more rare is that they basically value money more than their life, and like to plunder and collect gold, silver, and jewelry and hoard treasures. It is for this reason that countless people have come forward, regardless of their lives, to hunt down dragons and obtain their treasures and wealth. Qin Mu also came for the dragon, not for his treasure, after all, it was of no use to him. He wanted to tame the dragon and make it his mount. In the world of Greek mythology, dragons also exist, but most of them live in the northern seas. Ordinary players can never see them, let alone tame them as mounts. In the world of Norse mythology, dragons are also rare, but they are not impossible to find. The 9 realms are very big and very small. Most of the worlds in the 9 realms are not suitable for dragons to live in. These dragons live in human settlements, elf settlements, and gathering places of dwarves and gnomes. Only these 3 worlds are most suitable for dragons to live in. The remaining worlds, such as the Fire Kingdom and the Mist Kingdom, have harsh environments where even powerful creatures like dragons cannot stay for long. Don't even think about going to Asgard, Vanaheim, the kingdom of giants, places where gods live. If you go there you will only become a mount and dinner for the gods and giants. Because of this, there are quite a few giant dragons in Midgard. After they grow up, they will occasionally run into the human world to steal gold, silver, and treasures to accumulate a small treasury for themselves. More than 10 years ago, a nearby country was robbed by a giant dragon, and some people heard the roar of a giant dragon in this mountain range. Qin Mu came to look for the dragon with a try it attitude. If you could catch a giant dragon and make it your own exclusive mount, you would definitely feel extremely superior. But no player has ever tamed a dragon. He will become the first dragon rider. It's a pity that the dragons in this world cannot turn into cute girls, which is really a pity. With this attitude, he traveled back and forth in the mountains, trying to find the location of the dragon's lair. This mountain range is very large, surrounded by endless mountains and green trees. I walked around but didn't find anything suspicious. Looking up at a mountain in the distance, towering into the clouds, it is very likely that there is a dragon's lair. The flying sword under his feet was extremely fast, cutting through the sky, flashing green light, and instantly reached the top of the mountain and circled around. Damn, this dragon is really hiding deep. Qin Mu frowned and looked left and right. Isn't he gone a long time ago? Qin Mu couldn't help but sigh when he thought that he might have worked in vain. It seems that the Dragon Knight's dream can no longer be realized. A long time ago, when he had nothing to do, he read a novel called Mercenary World. The descriptions of the giant dragon and Dragon Knight were extremely detailed and domineering, which also planted the dream of becoming a Dragon Knight in his heart. Just as he turned the direction of his flying sword, he received an inexplicable magical message. This magic is extremely sophisticated and complex, and ordinary gods cannot use or release it. However, Qin Mu was very familiar with the aura of magic and knew that it came from Loki. He was not surprised that Loki could find him and deliver the message. Loki had found him before by following his scent, but since he wouldn't really die, he didn't take it too seriously. Tapping the message, a voice from Loki came out and entered his mind. In the blink of an eye, he knew the whole story. The Aesir had already noticed him and sent the goddess Freya to find him personally. Loki was forced to reveal some information about Qin Mu. It's terrible. The victim has come to my door, but fortunately there is only one. If there is only one, that is easy to deal with. Qin Mu thought of the goddess Freya who got the magic necklace, and wondered what it would be like to face her. With the blessing of the magic necklace, her charm and beauty should be greatly enhanced. However, for Qin Mu, the blessing of external objects cannot be regarded as his own appearance. These magical creations can easily distort a person's values and vision after being worn, making people unconsciously think that the person wearing them is as beautiful as a flower. Just like the goddess ring he made, if a man wears it, other people will see him as sexy and hot, a beauty on earth. Just like the saying goes, if I don't wear makeup, you don't know how beautiful I am. If I fight, I probably won't win. If only they could fight hand to hand, Qin Mu wouldn't be afraid of her. But Qin Mu also understood that this was not realistic. When enemies meet, they will draw their swords. With Loki standing by as a light bulb and watching, it was not easy to do anything. Chapter 177. The sky and the earth gradually dimmed, and the stars in the sky twinkled with dazzling light, bringing a poetic and picturesque scene to the sky. The breeze blew gently through Qin Mu's hair, and her long hair flew freely in the air. Her eyes were bright and lively on her amazing face. Even before they met, he already felt a different kind of oppression. It was the arrival of a god more powerful than him, which brought a crisis and triggered his mysterious psychological feelings. The practice system of Qigong practitioners is so unique that they are in harmony with the heaven and earth and can sense some crises that have not yet arrived. Other systems also have this ability, and Norse gods also have this ability, but it is different. Most of the time, reminders and warnings are provided through dreams. Sure enough, after a while, an exquisite golden chariot pulled by 4 strange beasts with sheep heads and horse bodies appeared from the horizon. The chariot was moving at an extremely fast speed, like a meteor across the sky, leaving a golden shadow in the air. In a flash, the carriage came in front of him, but it did not stop. Instead, it rushed straight towards him. Damn, women have the most vicious hearts. Qin Mu originally wanted to say something to ease and resolve everyone's misunderstanding. But looking at the golden car that was coming towards him at a high speed and wanted to smash him into a pulp, he could only shut his mouth and quickly dodge away. The carriage flew past him, and the huge waves it created blew up his clothes, making a rustling sound in the air. When he dodged the attack, the chariot also stopped on a flat ground. A beautiful lady in golden armor walked down from the chariot. Countless magic runes were engraved on the golden armor, looming and flashing dazzling light. It was sacred and powerful, making people unable to help but worship it. The woman has picturesque features, a graceful temperament, and a tall and plump figure. In her, one can see the purity of a young girl and the charm of a mature woman. Just by standing there, all the light in the world gathered on her. This woman is none other than the goddess Freya, the embodiment of love and beauty in the 9 realms, an existence that the giants can only dream of but cannot reach. I watched her walking slowly towards me, holding a gorgeous sword and wearing exquisite armor. Qin Mu felt a tightness in his heart for some reason. He wanted to run away, but he hadn't finished exploring the world of Norse mythology yet, so he was a little reluctant. In the world of Norse mythology, he read the runes left by the god King Odin in the Golden Palace, and gained a lot of insights. As long as he was given time, his cultivation would surely advance by leaps and bounds. By that time, maybe you can step into the 9th realm, or directly enter the realm of gods and master the laws of the world. But if we leave this world and go to another world, the laws and rules of that world will be different, and everything will be back to square one. Thinking of this, he gritted his teeth and tried to communicate. Looking at the goddess Freya with a cold gaze, holding the sword as if she was going to cut him into 18 pieces, he said with a fake smile. Beautiful goddess, long time no see, you have become more beautiful. Is there some misunderstanding between us? Why are you pointing knives at each other? I haven't offended you. Goddess Freya looked at the guy in front of her, storm and anger brewing in her eyes. The thought of being teased and played with made me extremely angry. There is no misunderstanding. You transformed into a dwarf to deceive me and tarnished the glory of the gods. I will tear you into pieces and extract your soul and roast it with divine fire every day. Chilling words came out of those alluring lips. After hearing the threats from goddess Freya, Qin Mu did not take it too seriously. These so-called punishments had no effect on him at all. Even after death, his soul is not here. When the time comes, it can return to the world of Norse mythology again. But being marked by a spirit is not a good sign. What's more, the goddess in front of him is an important figure among the Aesir and is also the most beloved one among the Vanir. In the giant kingdom, there are countless giants who adore and desire her. In this way, he had offended the three most powerful worlds. Qin Mu looked at the goddess Freya sincerely and said, "It was originally a transaction between us. Isn't it better to trade with me than with those three real dwarves?" Goddess Freya stared at him with gritted teeth. Looking at his handsome appearance, she felt that he was indeed better than the ugly and disgusting dwarf. But she had no intention of actually spending the night with the dwarf, she just wanted to fool him. She originally thought of agreeing to use illusion magic to control their minds and just spend the night there. After a night, they thought they had spent a wonderful day with me, but in fact they didn't really meet me. In this way, you can get your own magic necklace in 4 days. But who would have thought that the strange man in front of him would suddenly intervene and abruptly break the plan, carrying out 3 movements lasting for several months. I thought the dwarves had found a way to control their illusions, but I didn't expect that they had changed people. Because of the oath she made before, breaking the promise would make her ugly and old, so she could only endure it with tears. You know, you can't just make an oath to the gods as you please, and she didn't dare to try to break it easily. But the result was good, because at the last moment, he gave the magic necklace to himself. But this cannot wash away the sin and insult of playing with the gods. The dignity of gods is extremely strong. Even if Loki plays tricks on the gods, he will be disliked and excluded, let alone an alien. Stop talking nonsense and talk until you can defeat me. After saying that, she leaped up with a graceful figure, and the magic sword in her hand emitted golden light and exuded endless cold murderous aura. As the sword broke through the air, a cold light flashed, and the figure of the goddess Freya attacked like lightning. Qin Mu didn't dare to fight him head-on, so he could only transform again, but this time he didn't transform into Zeus, the king of gods. In addition to the king of gods Zeus, he also has another god he is very familiar with. In a blurry light, his body and face changed strangely, turning into a tall and sturdy man with a simple face. If any old players see this, they will definitely recognize that this is the god of fire Hephaestus. He is a very powerful god who controls the fields of fire, forging, weapons, sculpture, art, etc. In Greek mythology, he was raised by the great lord of grey mist, the god of plants, and is one of the gods closest to the players. Qin Mu can use some of his abilities by changing into his appearance. Most people thought he only knew how to forge, but his domain also included weapons, which meant he could control all weapons in the world. In his domain, no matter what weapon or artifact it is, it will be controlled by him. Qin Mu just stretched out his hand, and the sword of the goddess Freya stopped in mid-air, unable to move forward even half a step. Who are you? Why is there no trace of you in the 9 realms? Chapter 178. Looking at the strange god in front of her, a trace of surprise flashed in the eyes of goddess Freya. Feeling the strange aura and divine power emanating from him, I kept thinking in my mind, but none of them matched. He is tall and strong, with thick and powerful arms, and his divine power exudes a surging and burning feeling. This burning sensation was vast and boundless, filled with endless flames, like a volcano about to erupt. Among all the gods, only Loki has similar divine power. He is called the god of fire and has the original power to control the flames of the 9 realms. When constructing the 9 realms, it is because of his existence that the world will be as warm as spring, resisting the coldness from the kingdom of mist and preventing the world from falling into a frozen state. But he is obviously not Loki. Loki's flame is a restless fire, a jumping fire, a destructive and burning fire. The strange god in front of him was different. His divine power was filled with a sense of stability, wisdom, and the creation of new things. He also has a spirit of craftsmanship similar to that of the dwarven blacksmiths, who have been forging iron and weapons all year round. This unique temperament, in him, was sublimated to the utmost and reached the pinnacle. Just seeing him was like seeing the god of forging. Most people don't have this feeling. If the two were not still in a hostile state, Goddess Freya might have given up the opportunity to make exquisite and gorgeous jewelry for the other party. Qin Mu ignored her words, but quickly absorbed the power in the sword and turned it into part of his own power. He was originally transformed into the god of fire Hephaestus, mastering some of his abilities and characteristics, and his full strength was only 40% to 50%. This 40% to 50% of strength still relies on the basic changes of his original body. Once his own vitality is used up, he will be beaten back to his original form. At this time, the vast energy in the magic sword was absorbed and used as a battery. After putting it away, he slowly raised his head. I am who I am, but my current state is that I have borrowed the appearance of another powerful being and some of his abilities. You can also feel it, right? Now I control all the weapons in the world. Without the artifact, you can't do anything to me. Leave and go back to Asgard so that we can keep our distance. No matter what, the magic necklace is now in your hands, so we are even. Even if you can handle me as I am now, I still have other states I can transform into. As he spoke of the goddess Freya, he activated his transfiguration again and transformed into her appearance. After a moment, he turned into the cunning and treacherous Loki, and then into the majestic and domineering god King Odin. But in the end, he transformed into the appearance of Hephaestus, the god of fire. If for no other reason, this form is the most effective in restraining the goddess Freya. In order to make the goddess Freya not act rashly and listen to him, Qin Mu took control of the weapon law, and an invisible wave spread around like a stream of water, covering the goddess Freya with the power of control. For a moment, all the artifacts, magic weapons, and even the armor on her body were shaking slightly, as if they were about to fly away in the next moment. This strange ability really frightened the goddess Freya. He had never heard of anyone having the strange ability to control weapons in other people's hands. The reason why the gods in Norse mythology are so powerful is mainly because of the strength of their own divine bodies and the ability to manipulate the various elemental laws of the world. But the gods in Greek mythology are different. They are the embodiment of laws and the supreme rulers of their corresponding fields. In this respect, the Norse gods are far from comparable. One is more of a warrior, the other is more of a mage. Goddess Freya frowned, her flawless face facing Qin Mu, her eyes wide open, bright and shining like stars, as if she could see through all his secrets. However, as the armor worn on the body shook more and more violently, it even tended to disintegrate. She had to bite her rosy lips, suppress her curiosity, and step back. If she didn't do this, she was afraid that the clothes and armor she was wearing would automatically fall off, leaving only her perfect body as white as jade, exposed to the air. She also had a sense of shame, and what's more, Loki, the god of trickery, was right behind her and would probably arrive soon. If he saw me naked and unafraid, he might spread the news. Loki has done this kind of thing more than once, and it is precisely because of his character and his behavior that harms others and does not benefit himself that the gods hate him. When Loki transformed into an eagle and flapped his wings, he tried to fly over. He saw the chariot belonging to the goddess Freya flying straight past him without paying any attention to him. Loki was confused. So fast, could it be that the alien named Zhangqian has been beaten to death by her? He raised his head and looked around, trying to see the battle scene, but found Qin Mu sitting cross-legged on the top of the mountain intact. What's going on? Isn't it said that we should make amends and wash away the shame? Why did the goddess Freya leave? What did you do? Loki had a curious look on his face, with a searching gleam in his eyes. He knew that the stranger in front of him was no ordinary person, he was extremely bold and reckless. Because I was caught with evidence, he threatened and blackmailed me several times. But that was him, not the goddess Freya. Goddess Freya had no leverage over him, except that they had slept together a few times. But this matter has already spread in Asgard. Could it be that they fell in love while sleeping together? That shouldn't be the case. Today's gods have already fallen and only love to enjoy sexual pleasures and act according to circumstances. There is no real emotion at all. What's more, the person in front of him is just an extraordinary person. Even if he has some divine will and ability, he cannot really be compared with the gods. The boundary between humans and God is clear and not so easy to cross. Even the human heroes in Midgard, holding the artifacts carefully crafted by the dwarves, cannot defeat the gods. I just tried to persuade them with reason and emotion. Not everyone is like you, who has to be threatened to cooperate. Qin Mu said nonsense. He was quite wary of Loki, the famously cunning god in Asgard. If he were to discover his own abilities, he might be able to guess something from them. He was the one who taught me the spell of transfiguration, so I must be on guard against it. While the two were talking, the god King Odin, who was far away in the golden palace of Asgard, was rushing here at a rapid speed. His throne has the magical ability to observe the 9 realms and see through everything. It can be said that just sitting on it is like having a huge telescope. This telescope can observe everything in the 9 realms. Except for a small area that is shrouded in fog, the rest of the area is clearly visible. In order to observe the actions of the goddess Freya and Loki, he sat on the throne and used the throne's ability to see through everything. Everything was going as he expected. But as Qin Mu changed his form and turned into a strange god, he found something wrong. Chapter 179. No matter what, the god of fire Hephaestus is not a god of this world, and the laws of vibration around him are incompatible with the 9 realms. It's like a black person suddenly mixed in with the white people, who can be seen at a glance in the crowd. As the king of gods, Odin sacrificed the frost giant Ymir to create the world, and he also sacrificed himself for his own existence. He has extraordinary vision and can see the problem at a glance. This is not a god born in the 9 realms. Although they are similar in some ways and look Western, they are not. After thinking for a moment, he decided to take action himself. The alien race behaves strangely and appears and disappears mysteriously. They might have a great origin. If we can catch this strange alien, we might be able to get some useful clues and save the 9 realms from Ragnarok. Even if his idea was wrong, it would only result in the death of an alien. They have strange natures, are not afraid of life or death, and will kill anyone they want. Thinking of this, he rode on the 8-legged divine horse born from Loki, flew at great speed, ignored all obstacles, leaped 1,000 miles, and soon arrived at Midgard where Qin Mu was. It was already night, and there was no light from the sky or earth. Only the faint starlight and the bright moonlight illuminated the world. Some of the few humans and players who had not yet fallen asleep and were wandering in open areas would find a golden light streaking across the sky as long as they looked up. The light was sacred and brilliant, as if a majestic and sacred deity was patrolling the heavens and earth and roaming the 9 realms. Qin Mu and Loki were very powerful, and they discovered the arrival of the king of gods Odin before they arrived. It's not for any other reason but because his movements are so huge, the scenes are so magnificent, and his appearance is so majestic that people can't help but surrender. Looking at the majestic and extremely familiar figure on the divine horse, Qin Mu's eyes became serious. He looked at Loki and found that his eyes were also full of surprise. He didn't understand why the king of gods Odin would come in person. Qin Mu also didn't understand why Odin, the king of all gods, would take action personally when they had agreed to send 2 gods. Seeing him coming with one hand holding the reins and the other holding the eternal spear Gungnir, he must not be here to negotiate peace. But I just revealed that I had slept with the goddess Freya, so it shouldn't alarm him. Could it be that the things in Asgard have been exposed? Should I just run away? In just a moment, he made his decision. Qin Mu turned his body suddenly, jumped onto the flying sword and flew away. A light blue light streaked across the sky, flew away into the distance, and quickly disappeared from sight. It's not that easy to run away. King of gods Odin said lightly. He raised his right hand, took out the spear of eternity, and threw it fiercely. The spear of eternity has the causal law of hitting the target 100%. The moment it was fired, it rushed towards Qin Mu at lightning speed. The faster Qin Mu is, the faster it will go until it catches up with him. Qin Mu felt the icy threat from behind, and without caring about anything else, he transformed into the form of Hephaestus, the god of fire, again. With a wave of his right hand, the power of the weapon field was activated, and he began to try to control this legendary eternal spear. The power that was originally omnipotent and controlled all weapons seemed to have lost its effect under this eternal spear. She could clearly sense in her mind that she could control him, but that couldn't stop him from stabbing her. This is the law of cause and effect of the eternal spear, which has a 100% chance of hitting the target. It is blessed with countless magic spells and is made of a variety of precious materials. Qin Mu understood that as long as he was stabbed by this eternal spear, he would not be able to stop it no matter how powerful he was. In addition to having a 100% chance of hitting the target, this gun also has a penetrating effect. No matter what kind of armor you are wearing, it cannot escape the fate of being destroyed. In desperation, he changed his form again. This time, the man who appeared in front of everyone was a handsome man with a majestic and sacred look but also a hint of unruly temperament. She has snow-white hair draped over her shoulders, eyes as deep as the abyss, a high nose bridge, and a flawless face, as if it were a carefully crafted work of art. This is Zeus, the king of gods in Greek mythology. At this time, he appeared in the world of Norse mythology, and confronted Odin, the king of gods in this world. The Zeus transformed by Qin Mu controlled the power of billions of thunders. Suddenly, the sky and the earth changed color, and dark clouds covered the moonlight and starlight in the sky. The rumbling thunder was mixed with the collision of lightning and dazzling light from time to time, and waves of destructive power were gradually brewing. Looking at the eternal spear getting closer and closer, Qin Mu felt unsure and activated the Thor's body mode. He didn't know why, but he was extremely familiar with the use of the thunder god's body state, as if he had observed it countless times. Although we have never seen Zeus using the body of Thor, he can control and use it skillfully after the transformation. After the body of the god of thunder was transformed, the original flesh and blood body composed of carbon-based organisms turned into a body of thunder element in a burst of shining blue-purple light. It still looks human-shaped, but its internal structure is made entirely of thunder and lightning. The blue-purple light of thunder shines and flows, like an endless stream of water, shining rapidly and changing constantly. After becoming an element, his body was no longer his weak spot. As long as he had the power of thunder to replenish it, he could recover at any time no matter how much damage he suffered. When the Spear of Eternity came with great force and pierced Qin Mu's body of thunder with supreme power, it did not cause much damage, but just flashed by. Qin Mu looked down at his abdomen. The hole was wide open. If it was a flesh and blood body, he would have died long ago. But now his body is constructed of thunder. With just a thought, endless thunder emerges from the dark clouds like a spirit snake and merges into his body. In an instant, the hole, which was originally the size of a wash basin, healed at a speed visible to the naked eye, and there was no trace of injury at all. With 100% accuracy and penetrating ability, he managed to dodge it. When Qin Mu saw this effect, the fear in his heart faded a little, and he straightened his spine, ready to negotiate peace with the god King Odin. Before the god King Odin discovered all of his actions, there was no life and death hatred between the two. Respected god King Odin, I don't know why you attacked me. Qin Mu said calmly. He still looked like the king of gods Zeus, wearing luxurious and exquisite clothes, with a majestic and domineering expression, exuding an aura that made people submit. Just one glance can make people feel the supreme pressure from being high above, as if controlling all life and death in the world. Loki looked at Qin Mu's gorgeous transformation, his eyes fixed, and he was severely shocked. As the god who taught Qin Mu the art of transformation, he certainly understood how difficult it was to use this ability. What was even more unexpected was that Qin Mu transformed into a strange and unfamiliar god, whose aura was no weaker than that of the god King Odin. If he had not seen the king of gods Odin, he would probably think that Qin Mu was the ruler of the 9 realms and the king of gods after seeing Qin Mu transformed into Zeus. Chapter 180. In the valley, a high-pitched and passionate dragon roar was heard, resounding through the sky. Who is it that dares to disturb Master Nicholas's rest? Are you looking for death? An evil voice came from below. With a loud rumbling sound, a huge crack appeared in the ground, and a hideous-looking, scaly, and armored 2-winged dragon flew out from it. The giant dragon fluttered its wings, its eyes were bloodshot, and it exuded an aura of fury and frenzy, as if it had just been awakened from a dream. Odin, Loki, and Qin Mu stared at the dragon with calm expressions, as if they were looking at an ant that could be easily pinched. This guy is quite smart. He actually hid underground. No wonder we can't find it. Qin Mu's thought flashed through his mind. Unfortunately, this is not a good time to capture the dragon. The giant dragon Nicholas looked at the 3 people standing beside him who were watching him, and he shuddered all over. The anger he had from being disturbed from his deep sleep also disappeared. Whether from their appearance or their aura, one can tell that these 3 people are not people he can afford to offend. The being riding an 8-legged divine horse and wearing golden armor looked extremely familiar, and I remembered who he was in an instant. God King Odin, Lord of the 9 realms. The dragon Nicholas shuddered and trembled. It can't beat this. Looking at the existence confronting him, the figure was tall and majestic, standing above the sky, with thunder all over his body. Only a pair of majestic eyes were exposed, which made him feel chilled to the bone and dared not to act rashly. Although it didn't recognize it, it was not stupid. It knew that it could never defeat an existence that could confront and fight against the god King Odin. He turned his eyes to the last person, and his eyes lit up. Loki, the god of trickery. This one is also famous, the wise god of Asgard, often playing tricks and fooling other gods. But he seemed the easiest to bully among the three, so he turned the gun around and glared at him fiercely. It's you, who told you to disturb my sleep? I'm in a good mood this time, so I'll let you go, but if it happens again, I'll never let you go. The dragon Nicholas grumbled and vented his anger. In a good mood, he spread his wings and was about to fly away. He didn't want to get involved in the battle of the God King. He scolded Loki not only to vent his anger, but also to divert his target so that he could escape. Loki, who had done nothing, experienced an unexpected disaster and was so angry that he jumped to his feet. Looking at the shameless dragon running away, he became so angry that he turned into a huge eagle and flew over. Don't run, you damn stinky lizard! How dare you do this to the great god of trickery and fire? I will cut you into pieces. His tone was angry and cold, but deep down he didn't feel that way. Thanks to this big lizard, I was able to leave the battlefield. I'll torture it gently later. In the blink of an eye, Loki also disappeared from the spot. Only the god King Odin and Qin Mu were left on the field. You aliens should not be creatures in the 9 realms. The majestic voice of the god King Odin sounded, his eyes burning, as if he saw through everything Qin Mu said. Qin Mu's eyes flashed. You've been discovered. But it is not surprising. The god King Odin controls the 9 realms and has sacrificed himself. His divine power is combined with the world tree and is extremely powerful. Because of this, he has a very long-term vision, sees through everything, and can see things that other gods cannot see. Even though the Lord of Grey Mist covered everything, he still discovered some clues. Ding! An unknown error was found, please fix it immediately. Repair. Please kill the spirit in front of you, or leave this world quickly. A familiar mechanical electronic sound rang out, indicating a prompt from the system. 2 options. It seems simple, Qin Mu will be fine as long as he leaves this world. But he was somewhat unwilling to do so. If he just ran away like this, wouldn't he lose face as a player? This is a good opportunity for him to try and see who is more powerful, the so-called King of Gods Odin or the King of Gods Zeus. He made up his mind, a cold light flashing in his eyes. The energy around him was rising steadily, as powerful as thunder, with rumbling sounds rolling and exploding all around him. Wherever the thunder passed, no grass grew. The power to destroy the heaven and earth made the space begin to tremble. Upon seeing this, the god King Odin's eyes narrowed slightly and his expression gradually became serious. As I guessed, your thunder power is fundamentally different from the 9 realms. No wonder Thor was able to be deprived of his control over thunder. He jumped off his horse, exuding a domineering aura, wearing golden armor. The sky was full of colorful clouds, and endless divine power rushed towards him. The 9 realms shook, the branches and leaves of the world tree rustled, and the infinite power that supported the 9 realms continued to support Odin. At this moment, he finally displayed his supreme power as the King of Gods and Lord of the 9 realms. Seeing his vigorous and unstoppable power, Qin Mu's eyes flashed and he took the lead in attacking. The purple light balls condensed from the thunder in his hands gathered together, emitting terrifying waves, flew out from his hands, and exploded beside Odin. A ball of thunder exploded, shining in the sky and making the world as bright as day. A huge mushroom cloud rose up, and the power of destruction covered the sky and the sun, as if it was going to destroy the world. The smoke and dust dissipated. Odin was wearing a golden armor, and there were countless runes flashing with colorful light around him, protecting him firmly. This is the rune, a mysterious text that contains all the knowledge and hidden power of the 9 realms. Possessing them is equivalent to mastering most of the magic and spells in the 9 realms, which are powerful and unshakable. In the attack just now, Odin transformed the runes into a defensive magic and resisted it. However, Qin Mu's attack was not without effect. Some of the runes dimmed and disappeared, while other runes flickered, as if they could go out at any time. Qin Mu's eyes were deep, with a faint light flashing across them. He also understands runes. However, at this time, there is no necessary connection between the body of the thunder god and the rune, so they cannot be linked together. Otherwise, Qin Mu could also try to combine the two forces together to create a more powerful force. But it doesn't matter. Once Qin Mu understands Odin's methods, everything will be easy. He gathered the power of thunder once again. The sky was covered with dark clouds and purple lightning snakes jumped and flashed continuously, with a mighty power to destroy the world. Qin Mu was accumulating energy. He could not replenish his own energy and could only draw on the infinite power of thunder in the 9 realms. The god King Odin, who had been through many battles, could see through his thoughts at a glance. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle's and his majestic tone resounded between heaven and earth. I hereby declare, as the king of the gods and the creator of the 9 realms, that all the power of thunder in Midgard will be taken away. Deprive of all the power of thunder. The sound rang out, echoing for a long time in the human gathering place. The sound was so grand and sacred that it awakened countless sleeping humans and players. Chapter 181. What the hell, what's going on? Is the world of Norse mythology going to be destroyed? Dark clouds covered the sky and earth, blocking out all light. Did something big happen? What did the sound just now mean? Has the god King Odin come? Why did he deprive me of thunder? The war has started, but in Norse mythology, only the god of thunder, Thor, possesses the power of thunder. Could it be that the father is kind and the son is filial? One by one, the players looked up at the sky and made guesses. Compared with the local humans, they think more and more deeply. However, no matter how much they thought about it, they would never have imagined that it was Qin Mu, who was also a player, who went to war with the supreme king of gods. Qin Mu was also somewhat helpless. The power supply was cut off, which made him stretched to the limit and unable to use the power of thunder at will. I didn't expect Odin had this skill. Mobilize the powerful weapon, the world tree. Even so, he was still full of fighting spirit, and rushed forward with the force of thunder, engaging in a desperate battle with Odin. As the king of gods, Odin has fought with the frost giants for many years and killed Ymir, the ancestor of the frost giants, so he is very experienced. The two men fought, and for a while neither could do anything to the other. Zeus' body of the god of thunder is immune to physical damage, and although Odin is brave and skilled in fighting, with unpredictable power, he is completely unable to hurt his vital points. No matter how sharp or pointed the eternal spear is. The injuries Qin Mu suffered would always recover in the next moment. Unfortunately, it didn't take long for Qin Mu to fall into a tough fight and gradually lose the upper hand. The power of thunder was expelled, and no matter how he summoned it, it was of no avail. The boundless world tree, which towers into the sky and covers the world, tightly blocks the thunder element and does not allow any of it to enter Midgard. The change of the main venue brought great inconvenience and impact to Qin Mu, leaving him powerless in the follow-up. Qin Mu sighed. Originally, relying on the body of the god of thunder and his mastery of runes, he could be on par with the god King Odin, but now he can only flee in fear after being beaten. Fortunately, Zeus controls more than just thunder, he also controls the authority of the sky priesthood. The next moment, Qin Mu rose from the sky, as fast as lightning, and flew away in the sky like a fish entering the sea. I will be back. Qin Mu yelled and prepared to leave. The god King Odin has the support of the world tree, endless divine power, and absolute control over the 9 realms. He didn't see any chance of winning in fighting with him here, so he could only try to escape and think of other ways. A man was running in front, and Odin was chasing him on his 8-legged divine horse. The two of them made so much noise that they alarmed the gods among the Aesir. The giants in the distant Vanir and Giant Kingdom also felt something was wrong, but due to the great distance, they were not clear about the situation. Great God King Odin, let me help you. A sweet female voice sounded, and it turned out to be the moon goddess driving the moon car towards them. The bright moonlight poured out from the moon rover, flowing and shining, as if covering the world with a layer of silver gauze. The dark clouds summoned by Qin Mu gradually dissipated under the moonlight and disappeared without a trace. Do you think I'm easy to mess with? Qin Mu's eyes became fierce, and he went up and threw a bolt of lightning at him, not caring whether he knew him or not. The power of thunder burst out, and countless electric sparks shot out, turning the void into a blue-purple color, brilliant and dazzling. The moon goddess was hit by the power of thunder and fell to the ground, shaking all over, and dared not chase after him. Sister, damn it, you actually hurt my sister, I want you to pay the price. An angry male voice sounded, with a lot of anger in his tone. In an instant, the sky and the earth changed color, and the dazzling sun shone directly, as if it was going to burn Qin Mu to ashes. Everyone looked up and saw that it was the sun god driving the sun chariot, rushing towards them like a storm. The sun chariot emitted endless scorching light, which dispelled the coldness between heaven and earth and enveloped the earth in light again. Qin Mu clenched his palms, and the blue-purple power of thunder condensed in his palms, but after condensing for a long time, it did not take shape. He twitched his eyebrows and said helplessly, "I never thought that one day I would be exhausted to death because of no mana. But even so, I want to die gloriously." As his mind moved, a green light appeared in front of him. Upon closer inspection, it was the flying sword he had refined and used the power of Zeus to process it again. After a while, a flying sword containing destructive power was born. After gaining the authority of the sky, it became incredibly fast, roaming in the sky, and even the gods could not guard against it. Under Qin Mu's will, the sun god was pierced through by the flying sword before he could get close. The sun god had never encountered such an unreasonable long-range weapon. He was so frightened that he drove the sun chariot away into the distance, regardless of the blood flowing in his body. He was not too happy after forcing back the sun god and the moon god. He could sense many eyes and gazes looking towards him. Those were the gods of the Aesir, looking for his weaknesses and preparing to attack him. The god King Odin was also approaching quickly, his eyes scorching, and he exuded a majestic aura that made people submit to him. "Stranger, tell me your secret and I will spare your life." The majestic voice of the god King Odin sounded again, giving people an irresistible feeling. Qin Mu grinned, with a hint of sarcasm on his face. He has not yet reached the end of his rope, and this world is just a game world to him. If it doesn't threaten your life, then what's there to be afraid of? The flying sword flashed and rushed towards the god King Odin like a storm, showing his unwillingness to surrender. Nothing is said explicitly, everything is implied. The scene of fighting with the sun god just now was seen by many players. The sun chariot passed by, the sky and earth regained their light, and the players' horizons were broadened. What the hell did I just see? Isn't that Zeus from Greek mythology? How did he get to Norse mythology? Oh my god, what's going on? Have the two mythological worlds merged? No, we must report this to the state and pass it on to the leadership quickly. Countless human players were shocked when they saw this strange scene and had different reactions. Some spy players even directly exited the world of Norse mythology and went to the real world to report the news. The flying sword was sharp and swift, leaving several white marks on the golden armor of the god King Odin, but unfortunately it did not hurt him at all. Odin's golden armor is forged with gold, magic, runes, and rare minerals, and is extremely strong. Seeing that the attack failed, Qin Mu controlled the flying sword to move around Odin, looking for his weakness. But this scene was unbearable in the eyes of the Aesir. They claimed to be brave and fearless warriors, so how could they let the great god King Odin get hurt? So they stood up and besieged Qin Mu. The goddess used magic and spells to attack from a distance, and colorful magic missiles hit Qin Mu like a rainstorm. The male gods were wearing armor and rushing towards us holding various divine weapons. Qin Mu was overwhelmed and very angry. Chapter 182. A flash of light passed by, and Qin Mu disappeared from the spot. Damn it, they actually got beaten to death. These gods are too shameless. Back in the system space, Qin Mu's eyes were cold, and a storm seemed to be brewing in his eyes. But he soon calmed down and his eyes became clear. It's just a game. I'm not really dead, he said to himself, as if to comfort himself. The figure gradually faded away, and consciousness returned to the real world. In the school dormitory, Qin Mu suddenly opened his eyes and sat up from the bed. I took a quick glance at the dormitory and found nothing unusual, so I felt relieved. He was somewhat afraid that the previous incident of killing gods in the Greek mythology world would be discovered, but he also knew that he was worrying too much. I even changed my appearance and name. Even people who know me don't know. I'm not afraid at all. It's just that the commotion caused in the world of Norse mythology is even bigger, and might even cause another huge storm. But he was even less afraid of it. In the world of Norse mythology, he uses the appearance of Zeus. Qin Mu didn't believe that any player would dare to go, or be able to communicate with the gods and check their information. Even if they found out, it was just a fake appearance he made up. These insignificant things are unlikely to be involved in the real world, let alone expose one's identity. He stretched his body, picked up his phone and checked the latest news. Open Douyin and check out the latest hot news in the top column. I suppressed my trembling heart and scrolled on. As expected, in the 5th ranking, we saw news about gods laying in Greek mythology. Qin Mu was quite happy when he saw that he was ranked 5th on the list. He felt an inexplicable satisfaction. However, he knew that there would be a lot of movement in Norse mythology in the future, and he might be able to make it to the top 3 or even take first place. I clicked in and looked through the messages and comments section. It was all speculation and cursing of the Greek gods. After Qin Mu slaughtered Adonis, Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, and Ares, the god of war, did not turn against each other, but instead took out their anger on the players. Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, sent her messengers to the world to issue divine orders. Want humans to slaughter players. At the same time, the gods including King Zeus also issued divine decrees, preparing to massacre the players. How could the players tolerate this? They didn't even know what was going on, but they were accused of killing gods. With the help of the gods of Mount Olympus, the players were beaten back step by step and cried for their parents. If Hephaestus, the god of fire, and Hades, the god of the underworld, hadn't intervened, players might have had to say goodbye to the world of Greek mythology. Only then did the players realize that there really was a big boss who had completed the mission of killing gods and aroused the fear of the gods. Of course, the king of gods Zeus also contributed to this. In the real world, many forces and big shots offer high rewards. As long as you sell the mission opportunity, you will have endless wealth and glory. Some people also wondered what method was used to kill the gods. There must be some weapon or method that can kill gods. On the surface, everything seems calm, but in reality, undercurrents are surging and everyone is investigating. Qin Mu understood this very well. That's human nature. He didn't have enough strength and power to protect himself, so he could only hide his identity. But he didn't think too much about money, after all, his family was not poor. I looked through the comments section, and there was nothing special to pay attention to. Qin Mu clicked on several hot topics above. Being able to suppress the news of the gods laying is also a very important matter. The first thing is about the security of the world. Qin Mu raised his eyebrows and clicked in. After reading the news, I was really surprised and shocked. A hole in the ozone layer has appeared over Antarctica and is gradually expanding. If it is not stopped in time, I am afraid that the whole world will be submerged in 10 years. However, this real-time news has been updated to include countries sending troops to carry out blockade and remedial measures. Today, various countries have mastered a series of mythological systems in the mythological world, including magic, spells, witchcraft, qigong, meditation, etc. After much research and discussion, we have begun to prepare to use magic circles to fill the gap. In Huaxia country, netizens gave it a vivid name, Operation Patching the Sky. If successful, it would not only block the ozone layer and prevent it from expanding, but also use the absorbed solar light and convert it into electricity. By then, even disasters can turn into good things. The emergence of the mythological world has a profound impact on the real world. Qin Mu exclaimed. If this situation had happened before, the country might have blocked the news and everyone would have been in danger. By the time everyone knows about it, those powerful guys will probably have already boarded the spaceship and rushed out of the Earth. After scrolling down and seeing a few similar reports, Qin Mu found out there was a live broadcast, so he clicked in to take a look out of curiosity. Groups of soldiers and experts from various countries were constantly transporting supplies, conducting measurements, researching, and building magic arrays. With Qin Mu's current knowledge, he can see that this is an extremely large magic circle. Perhaps the United Nations is preparing to cover the entire Antarctica. This is what it means when there is strength in numbers. If he were to do it himself, it might take him forever. Qin Mu took a look and estimated that it would take a week to complete the construction. He couldn't wait that long, so he looked at the next hot news. This is also quite explosive news. Several small countries in the West, which had been at war with each other due to numerous internal conflicts, are now preparing to merge again because of the mythological world. If they merge, a country with greater influence will inevitably emerge, even with a wide-ranging impact throughout the world. Qin Mu had not expected the influence of the mythological world to reach this extent. After clicking on the comments section, I found that although these countries have been divided for a long time, they have a long history and were one family in the distant ancient times. Under the influence of the mythological world and the trend of the general environment, they gradually reconciled and prepared to merge into one. Qin Mu didn't understand these things, but he also understood that this might be the first country affected, but it would not be the last. Who knows, which country will merge again in the future, or may conflict and disintegrate. Nothing is certain, everything is possible. Forget it. This is not something that a college student like me can control. Qin Mu complained and looked at the next hot news. This news is very popular, and it is about the magical country India next to Hawaii. As the saying goes, India is not good at creating myths. Qin Mu was very interested in this hot topic, so he clicked on it to see what was interesting. Brahma blessed the player Fishato to beat up the Emperor of Heaven. The Emperor of Heaven's pillar of shame reached a new high. Chapter 183. Qin Mu read the news and couldn't help but smack his lips. No wonder he was able to suppress the hot topic of his own god-killing. It turned out that there was someone who was more powerful and luckier. As we all know, there are many Indian myths, with different schools and stories with a long history. Among them, the most talked about are asceticism and blessings. As long as you practice hard and please a few gods of creation, you can get one or several magical wishes. As long as it is not immortality, it can basically be achieved. This also led to the famous scene where believers practiced hard for many years, and after receiving the blessing, they abused their power and beat the Emperor of Heaven. This kind of thing is widely circulated in Indian mythology and is even the supreme law of the mythological world. This is like the power of reproduction in the world of Greek mythology, which is an inviolable rule of the world. Only by possessing the power of reproduction can one become the king of gods. Norse mythology is not much different, their main theme is sacrifice. The god King Odin sacrificed the frost giant Ymir to create the world. He sacrificed an eye to obtain the fountain of wisdom. The player Fishato, who had practiced hard for many years, somehow succeeded in pleasing Brahma and received blessings. The content of the blessing is unknown, but the powerful force it possesses is truly beyond words. The player Fishato used this invincible power to defeat a group of gods, beat Indra, and successfully ascended the throne of the emperor in Indian mythology. This incident caused a sensation in India and spread everywhere, as if the whole world wanted to know about it. However, it was also because of this that Qin Mu's limelight was overshadowed. Qin Mu was somewhat curious whether his popularity would surpass his after his involvement in Norse mythology was exposed. However, this thing needs time to develop, so it will probably take some time. After taking a look at the comments section, many people commented that they wanted to move to the world of Indian mythology. This wave is very strong, with various opinions in the comments, which makes people excited. According to Indian mythology, as long as one endures the asceticism and loneliness, one can successfully obtain the blessing of Brahma and become a being comparable to or even superior to the gods. This can be said to be an extremely simple and easy way to gain power. In other mythological worlds, one either has to learn all kinds of knowledge or train hard, and some even require special physiques and abilities. But Qin Mu felt that things were not that simple. He had also read Indian mythology and had some understanding of it. These blessings are like winning the lottery. Those who receive the blessing are not good people, or they will change their nature and become evil beings. They are unruly, do evil, and bring harm to others. They don't care about anyone, even the three-faced god who blesses them. And the three gods will also eliminate them at the critical moment, just like clearing computer viruses, to maintain world peace. This made Qin Mu feel very abnormal. This approach is like creating a disaster first and then extending a helping hand in order to gain more believers. Similar traces can also be found in the long river of history. Another point is that Qin Mu believes that blessing will only take effect in the world of Indian mythology, and the laws of other worlds do not support it at all. Although he had no evidence, it didn't stop him from staying away. Oh, the Norse mythology world has also been blacklisted. Which world should I go to next? Qin Mu looked worried as he looked through several popular mythology worlds in the forum. The most popular is actually the world of Greek mythology. As the original mythological world, it hides too many secrets. The intricate relationships and epic developments of the gods are also a paradise pursued by many players. Although many players are ostracized and hated by the gods, they can always receive tasks secretly issued by the gods. For example, Ares, the god of war, commissions players to kill other lovers of Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, wants players to kill Ares, the god of war. Poseidon, the god of the sea, asks players to use magnetite to build Atlantis in order to challenge the king of gods Zeus. Amphitrite, the queen of the sea, asks the player to hunt down the dolphins. This is also the fifth piece of news on the popularity list, and the comment section is extremely popular. Mainly, most of the people who received the mission were Japanese. They were experienced in hunting dolphins and their methods were very ruthless. There is a reason why the Queen of the Sea is so cruel and hunts cute dolphins. Amphitrite was originally a deity of the ocean, but she was spotted by Poseidon, the god of the sea, and pursued desperately. Poseidon, the god of the sea, is notorious in the ocean for his cruelty and lust, which makes many goddesses dislike him. Amphitrite also had a bad face towards him, but due to his powerful divine power, she couldn't refuse him directly. With the help of his sisters, he ran to an island called Crete and hid there. He originally thought that by hiding for a while, he would make Poseidon, the god of the sea, forget his existence. After all, he is fickle and lustful. He falls in love with everyone he sees, even monsters with strange and inhuman appearances. He might forget her after a while. But what Amphitrite didn't expect was that a dolphin in the ocean volunteered to run to Poseidon, the god of the sea, and exposed her location. Amphitrite had no way to escape, and finally had to reluctantly marry Poseidon, the god of the sea, and Dong became his wife. But from then on, she began to hate the dolphin clan. The dolphin was raised into the sky by Poseidon, the god of the sea, forming a constellation, which is the Delphinus constellation. Since Amphitrite could not take revenge on this dolphin, she could only take revenge on other members of the dolphin clan. Delegate tasks to players and secretly open back doors, allowing some players to roam freely on the sea. Most of them are Japanese players. They hunt dolphins in exchange for mission rewards and win the favor of the Queen of the Sea. Because of this, the sea has become a new paradise for players. They build ships and sail on the sea. This led to the beginning of the Age of Discovery in the world of Greek mythology. The various changes in the world of Greek mythology made Qin Mu very interested and excited, and he also wanted to go back. But thinking that he was still hated by Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, he thought he would not get any benefit, so he decided to look for other options. After looking around, he felt that Egyptian mythology and Sumerian mythology were the most suitable. Among them, Egyptian mythology is the most interesting, with the gods constantly fighting for power. Countless players joined various camps, fought and gained countless benefits. Qin Mu thought about it and decided to go to the Egyptian mythology world next. But before that, he needed to fill his stomach first. An indescribable feeling of hunger filled his abdomen, and his brain and soul seemed to be affected. It was only his reason that bound him tightly and prevented him from doing anything. Excessive. Chapter 184. The weather was clear and the sky was cloudless. The azure blue sky was like an exquisite curtain, covering everything. Qin Mu walked on the school road, surrounded by classmates coming and going and green plants that had been carefully designed and renovated. I'm so hungry, why am I so hungry? Qin Mu's eyes were deep and dark, and his dim gaze seemed to devour everything he saw. After a while, Qin Mu came to the cafeteria. There were not many people in the cafeteria, as most of the students and teachers had entered the mythological world. The mythological world has far-reaching influence and has caused huge ripples. Many people gave up all unnecessary social activities just to stay in the mythological world for a while longer and gain opportunities. One of the reasons is that he has practiced in the mythological world and his experience can be brought into reality. There are also some people who can only become single dogs or bootlickers in the real world. But in the mythological world, having beautiful women on both sides and having many children and grandchildren is the simplest thing. This group of people regard the mythological world as their second home and will not come out unless it is important. Scrambled eggs with tomatoes, twice cooked pork, 3 fresh vegetables, braised pork, braised spare ribs. After ordering the dishes one by one and placing them on the dining table, Qin Mu began to eat them ravenously. The hunger in his body was so strong that he ate without restraint and gobbled down the food voraciously. Soon, he had eaten up all the food on the table. Gulp. There was a strange growl from my stomach. Qin Mu looked at his stomach helplessly, then looked at the cafeteria. These ordinary foods are not enough, far from enough to replenish the energy I need. He was still tortured by hunger, but he had regained some of his rationality. This hunger comes from the body and the soul. It is caused by one's own realm being too high and there is no energy to replenish it. This results in a mismatch between body and soul. Because of the emergence of the black hole channel, the energy between heaven and earth is gradually increasing. But this improvement is limited. The world is so vast that it is not enough for him to absorb and replenish energy. His realm is too high and the speed of improvement is too astonishing, it is simply horrifying. At this moment, he was like a dry sponge, in urgent need of watering with sea water. But the energy between heaven and earth is too scarce and is simply not enough to replenish it. Eating regular food doesn't work well. No, I have to eat monster meat, Qin Mu thought to himself. But large amounts of monster meat are too precious, and generally only the rich can afford it. The school cafeteria does not provide this kind of food, and you have to go through special channels to buy it. Qin Mu's eyes flickered, as if he had made some kind of decision. Baidang Mountain, the black hole passage closest to Qin Mu, is surrounded by countless monsters pouring out like a tide. It is said that there is an army of 10,000 soldiers stationed here, and there are also bounty hunters with special skills who are not afraid of life and death to strangle it. It is precisely because of this that a steady stream of magical beasts are blocked in the Baidang Mountain area. Qin Mu turned into a tall and mighty eagle, with a loud and clear gaze and a high-pitched roar. He crossed the defense line from the sky and entered the warcraft area. He made up his mind to go to the area where the monsters were to replenish his energy. He originally wanted to be a bounty hunter, but after thinking about it, he decided that he wasn't doing it for the money and it would be easy for him to be caught. He might as well transform himself into an animal, fly in, eat everything, and then sneak out after replenishing his energy. Spreading its wings and flying, as soon as it entered the warcraft realm, it clearly felt a force of energy from heaven and earth that was several times denser than the outside world, wandering around here and erupting outside. Nourished and stimulated by rich energy, this mountain range stretches endlessly, with towering ancient trees, emerald green and full of vitality. Qin Mu's breath was panting, rising and falling regularly, and as the qi refining technique was running, the energy of heaven and earth surged like a tide. In just a moment, a huge energy vortex appeared in the air at a speed visible to the naked eye. More and more energy gathered, clouds and mist swirled, the sky was full of rosy clouds, colorful and strange visions. Outside Baidang Mountain, Command Center. It's bad. A level 8 energy alert has occurred in Baidang Mountain. How is this possible? Could it be that a level 8 monster has appeared? That shouldn't be the case. The size of our black hole passage is simply not enough to support such a powerful monster. In the command center, Commander Li stood up suddenly. Looking at the news reported by his subordinates and the photos they brought, he suddenly felt overwhelmed and frowned. No matter what, activate the highest defense mode and have the soldiers on the front line be on high alert. After some deployment, the military soldiers were on high alert to prevent any accidents from happening. Qin Mu didn't know how much trouble he had caused. He was like a fish into the sea, feasting on the food. The dazzling energy vortex around it had extremely strong pressure, which sucked countless monsters nearby into the vortex and tore them into pieces. It seemed as if blood was raining from the sky. Scarlet mist rose up and swirled clockwise along the energy vortex before finally entering the center of the vortex. In a central location, Qin Mu opened his mouth widely, with a long and lasting breath, swallowing up all the energy-rich objects, thereby nourishing his body and honing his realm. 3 days and 3 nights passed like this. All the monsters nearby were devoured, and the monsters far away ran far away, some even attacked the defense line. These escaped monsters caused considerable trouble to the soldiers on the front line. However, unexpectedly, it delayed the military's efforts to investigate the cause. Qin Mu opened his eyes, and a gleam of light flashed in them. After standing up, the whole person seemed to be reborn, with unparalleled elegance and ethereal temperament, as if he was an immortal who descended from the sky. But in a flash, his unparalleled handsomeness was hidden, and he looked ordinary. Compared with the crowd, she cannot be said to be ordinary, but she is just above average. Qin Mu looked at his reflection in the water and was very satisfied. There is no need to be too ostentatious, it is better to be low-key. His philosophy is to keep quiet and make a fortune. At this time, his cultivation was stable, and his body in the real world had reached the 8th level of qi refining. This kind of strength is equivalent to being close to God in any world. He can be called a demigod, half a step to becoming an immortal. In the real world, no one can reach his level. If the news were to be revealed, he would be the strongest person in the world. However, Qin Mu was not sure. Perhaps a player in the world of Indian mythology could surpass him. He was able to beat the god Indra, and his strength surpassed that of many gods. After Qin Mu erased all traces of himself, he transformed into an extraordinary and handsome eagle again and flew back to school. Everything seemed to have happened, yet nothing seemed to have happened. When the station troops cleared out the fleeing monsters and entered Baidang Mountain to gather intelligence, they only saw a huge deep pit. This matter was also reported and filed as S-level. Unfortunately, no matter how these people searched, they could not find any clues about Qin Mu. Chapter 185. The Ennead gods in Egyptian mythology are very famous. The reason why Qin Mu chose it was because he received a piece of important news. The world of Egyptian mythology will enter a special period. Of course, this news was not obtained through special channels, but was revealed by a big shot on the internet who is well versed in mythology and history. It is estimated that the first pharaoh, the god of fertility Osiris, will be resurrected by his wife Isis, the goddess of magic, after his death. This is a big deal, and it may lead to untold changes. This is the hallmark of Egyptian mythology, death and resurrection. It is also due to this influence that the Egyptian people are not afraid of death, and even have a desire and respect for it. They believe that death is just the beginning, not the end. They believed that people could be resurrected after death, so they mummified the dead pharaohs and placed them in pyramids. The gods in the Egyptian mythology world are as shocking as those in Greek and Norse mythology. In the beginning, chaos was filled with an unknown liquid, which could also be called known. He is the origin of all things, without thoughts or consciousness, empty, yet real. None is equivalent to the creator god in Greek mythology, that is, Pangu in Eastern mythology. In the ocean formed by liquid, a mysterious egg was born, and this egg gave birth to the first god. This deity is the famous sun god Ra. Yes, it is one of the 9 pillars of gods, the origin and ancestor of all gods, with a lofty status, noble and powerful. He possesses unparalleled strength. His real name represents the origin of the world. He can create all living things in the world, and he can also destroy all living things in the world. Almost no one knows his real name, because the real name cannot be revealed in Egyptian mythology. If you are controlled by others, even if you are the supreme god, you will be controlled by others. In the whole world, only the goddess of magic, Isis, knows his real name. During the long years, the sun god Ra could not bear the loneliness and swallowed an unknown liquid that was born in his body into his mouth. Thus a pair of brother and sister were born. Like Gaia, the Earth Mother, the males gave birth to the second generation of gods. The names of this brother and sister are Hu, the god of wind, and Tefnut, the goddess of rain. As in other myths, the brother and sister grew up and gave birth to the third generation of gods. Soon after, the two grew up and had a pair of siblings, Geb, the god of the earth, and Nut, the goddess of the sky. In Greek mythology, these two gods are the supreme gods of creation, but unfortunately in Egyptian mythology, they are only ranked in the third generation. It may be due to the influence of parents, or it may be that they have no choice. The brother and sister inherited the family tradition and lived together. But how can the god of earth and the god of sky be together every day? One day, the sun god Ra couldn't stand it anymore and ordered the two to separate. After all, I'm used to being single and can't stand seeing two people showing off their affection every day. Only after the two separated did the world begin to be created, and all living things had space to survive. The two separated naturally, but they gave birth to 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. These 9 gods make up the famous Ennead in Egyptian mythology. These 4 children inherited their family traditions and paired up in pairs. The stories of love, hate and passion between them became the theme of Egyptian mythology. When players in the real world enter Egyptian mythology, these 4 children, that is, 4 gods, had already been married, and even according to the course of history, they started a life and death dispute. The 4 are Osiris, the god of fertility, Isis, the goddess of magic, Set, the god of war and the desert, and Nephthys, the goddess of death. The first 2 are husband and wife, and the last 2 are also husband and wife. In order to deal with the disasters outside the world, the sun god Ra drove the solar boat to fight against Apep, his enemy in the dark. The throne was passed to his eldest great-grandson, Osiris, the god of fertility. Set, the god of war and desert, was not satisfied with being assigned to the barren desert while his brother got the most prosperous and abundant land. That fertile land not only has a beautiful environment and abundant crops, but also has the Nile River that nourishes all things. However, due to family ties and the elder gods above him, he could only suppress his dissatisfaction. But just when everyone thought everything was going to settle down, Osiris, the god of fertility, did something wrong. This wise and benevolent god is seen as a ruler and a symbol of order. After getting drunk at a banquet, he mistook the wife of Set, the god of desert and war, for his own wife. Several of them originally had the same parents, so their relationship was very complicated. The wife of Set, the god of desert and war, also had a crush on the eldest brother, and the two of them got together in an ambiguous relationship. Perhaps it is to keep the excitement going. Nephthys, the goddess of death and wife of Set, the god of war and desert, gave birth to an illegitimate child for Osiris, the god of fertility. When Set, the god of war and desert, learned about this, he was furious and sent his men to make an exquisite and luxurious coffin. At a grand banquet, he gave it to his brother as a gift. In Egyptian mythology, gods and humans alike are not afraid of death and even look forward to it. Therefore, the god of fertility Osiris did not think much about it, accepted it happily, and lay down in it. This is the coffin tailor-made for him, the size is just right. As soon as he lay down, Seth immediately closed the coffin lid, sealed it with graphite, and threw it into the bottomless Nile River. In this way, the first pharaoh, Osiris, the god of fertility, died. Set had been planning this for a long time. He led his 72 men to seize the throne of Pharaoh and occupy this fertile land. Set became the second pharaoh. When Osiris' wife, the goddess of magic Isis, heard about this, she was shocked and heartbroken. For the sake of her beloved husband, the magic goddess Isis stole the real name of the sun god Ra. Originally, no one knew the real name of the sun god Ra, not even his descendants knew it. Isis was so bold that she used the saliva of the sun god Ra as he aged, combined with magic and various rare materials to make a poisonous snake. This poisonous snake has the same origin as the sun god Ra and has the ability to harm the sun god Ra. Isis placed a poisonous snake where the sun god Ra passed every day, and bit him when he was not paying attention. The poisonous snake injected venom into the body of the sun god Ra, causing him great pain. The reason why they are hurt is that they have the same origin. The indestructible body of the sun god Ra seemed to have encountered a bug, and it was easy to bite through his body. In this way, the sun god Ra was tortured by pain, and even if he called his children and grandchildren, there was no way to relieve the pain. Listening to the painful wails of the sun god Ra, several gods thought of the magic goddess Isis. This was exactly what the magic goddess Isis wanted. Chapter 186. After meeting the sun god Ra, the magic goddess Isis asked for Ra's real name in order to help him heal. The sun god Ra certainly didn't want to entrust his life and death to someone else's hands. But in the end he compromised. It hurt so much, the pain penetrated deep into his bones and soul, making him scream all the time. Over time, the enemies in the darkness will devour the entire world. Without his divine power, the descendants of gods would be unable to stop the devouring of Apep, the god of eternal darkness. The magic goddess Isis successfully obtained the true name of the sun Ra and mastered his power. From then on, the magic goddess Isis had the same divine power as the sun god Ra. Using the great power of the god Ra, she defeated the guards and salvaged the coffin containing her husband from the Nile. The Nile River has a lofty status in the Egyptian mythology world. It can be said to be a sacred river that gives birth to all existence. It took a lot of effort for the magic goddess Isis to salvage the exquisite coffin. She hid the coffin in a swamp in an attempt to resurrect Osiris. But this action was discovered by Seth. After Set came to the swamp, he took Osiris' body out of the coffin, chopped it into 14 pieces, and scattered them all over the world. And not long after, the players arrived. They were divided into 3 major factions. One group helped the magic goddess Isis to resurrect Osiris, trying to keep the original myth going. Another group of people joined Set, helped him rule the world, and received generous rewards. The last faction is also the neutral faction. They try their best to avoid getting involved in the battle between the two gods. Neutrals are the most moderate and peace-loving, and they just want to explore the world and see the customs and practices of the world of Egyptian mythology. Qin Mu saw 2 forces on the forum, cursing at each other. One side said that Osiris, the god of fertility, had an affair with someone else's wife and deserved to be torn into pieces. Another group said that Set, the god of desert and war, was too cruel to be a pharaoh. I scrolled down and found that there was a bounty mission. An unknown tycoon offered a huge reward for the catfish that ate brother Osiris. Qin Mu showed an expression that could not be explained. This guy has such a big appetite. Set chopped Osiris into 14 pieces, one of which was his reproductive organ. It was originally thrown into the Nile River, but unexpectedly it was eaten by catfish in the Nile River. This resulted in him having no reproductive organs when he was resurrected later. But it doesn't matter. According to historical records, the magic goddess resurrected him using 13 parts and gave birth to a child with him. This may be the greatness of the gods. Even if all important organs are lost, offspring can still be born. Qin Mu looked through it for a long time, and no one knew how many parts the magic goddess Isis had put together. But it should be soon. Thinking of this, Qin Mu decided to enter the world of Egyptian mythology. If I could get into the team of the magic goddess Isis and see how she resurrects the gods, it might help my cultivation. Knowing about life and death is a major obstacle for practitioners. No matter you are cultivating gods, Taoism, magic, or martial arts, you are likely to face death. Only by seeing through life and death can one reach the pinnacle, see the true self, and transform and evolve into an eternal god. Lying back on the bed, as the light flowed, Qin Mu's pupils darkened and he closed his eyes. After some operations, they successfully arrived at the world of Egyptian mythology. When Qin Mu opened his eyes again, he had arrived in a city-state full of exotic customs. All around are houses built of brown boulders, all the same color, grand and similar in appearance. The humans coming and going had sallow and brown skin, high noses, and long curly hair. In terms of skin color, they are closer to the yellow race, and in terms of appearance, they are more like the white race. Qin Mu just observed briefly, and after glancing at the appearance of several indigenous people, his body and face changed in an instant. He used Loki's transfiguration, but it was not very successful. The world rules of each world are slightly different, which leads to large differences in the magic and spell construction of each world. In addition to the known real world, it can accommodate all magic, qigong, spells, witchcraft, etc. from the mythological world. No other world is so inclusive. Qin Mu pursed his lips, and his bloated body collapsed and turned into a pool of blood. Damn, this is so disappointing. Qin Mu got up from the bed, rubbed his head and complained. Qin Mu didn't expect this result. I was too arrogant. I won't dare to do it next time. Qin Mu lay motionless on the bed, as if he was meditating, or practicing. In fact, he was constantly thinking in his mind, breaking down the principles of transfiguration, and trying to build a new transfiguration based on the rules of the Egyptian mythology world. This lasted for a day and a night. After the system cooling time ended and he could log in, Qin Mu once again entered the world of Egyptian mythology. When I came in again, the timeline had already extended to an unknown distance. Qin Mu looked at the ground. The original pool of scarlet rotten flesh and blood had long disappeared, and it was extremely clean. The street has undergone the same changes. Originally, there were people coming and going, and there was a lively atmosphere of life. But now it is empty, desolate, and cold, there is no one on the street, and every house has its doors tightly closed. It seems that something unknown happened during the time I was away. Qin Mu guessed. The different flow rates of the two worlds lead to information asymmetry. I used transfiguration again, and everything was normal, no one died, it was just a little ugly. But Qin Mu doesn't care. He will just adjust it slowly when he has time. Qin Mu looked around, selected a place with the most people, and walked over. From a distance, I saw a tall and rugged building. When I got closer, I found that it was a tavern. Some burly humans or players were coming in and out, and noisy and lively sounds were coming from inside the door. There were laughter, lively conversation, and the sound of clinking glasses. Qin Mu walked in. A pungent smell came, like a mixture of alcohol, cigarettes, blood, sweat, etc. He immediately closed his nasal cavity, blocked his sense of smell, and built an invisible air mask to prevent these terrible smells from contaminating himself. Oh my God, brother, how did you make this face? It's so ugly. Ugh, I can't stand it anymore. A drunk player saw him and immediately ran out to vomit. It's amazing. This is the first time I've seen such an ugly face. It makes my hands itch. I really want to punch it. Qin Mu's face attracted the attention of other players. The reason why they were discovered is mainly because Egyptian humans do not look like this, and those who look weird are all players. Chapter 187. Many players have gained the ability to customize their faces through the system, and have created many strange faces and looks. Qin Mu's appearance at this moment was as if he had been deliberately molded into an ugly monster. What they didn't know was that this was a small flaw in Transfiguration's ability to adapt to the local environment. Qin Mu was speechless when he saw the funny expressions of the players. Is it really that ugly? He came to the water tank nearby and looked at his reflection in the water. The face was distorted and bumpy, as if Nuwa had thrown mud on the stone man when she created man. Just standing there, there is a kind of feeling that pollutes one's spirit and eyes, making one want to come up and punch him. Well, it's a little ugly. It seems that the research on transfiguration needs to be accelerated. He originally wanted to gather some information, but now he just wanted to study transfiguration. In a different world, the structure of transfiguration has changed dramatically. Qin Mu didn't know how to change back. Just as he was about to leave, his feet paused. He saw a lot of people surrounding him, all of them were players, looking at him with unfriendly expressions. You can go, but first let us have a fight to vent our anger. That's right, with such an ugly face, you still dare to run around everywhere, it's really polluting the environment. Brother, you won't die anyway, so just let us have some fun, and it can be considered a contribution. A group of players walked towards him with evil eyes, holding up the shining weapons in their hands. The primitive people on the side had already realized that the situation was not good and ran away to a nearby place. The reason they run away instead of watching is not because they are not curious, but because they know that curiosity kills the cat. The dead is what players call the world of Egyptian mythology. The humans here discovered that the players were not afraid of death and would be resurrected after death, so they thought they were humans who had died and been reborn. This further establishes human beings' desire and yearning for death. But even so, they didn't dare to just watch the players' fights. When the players started fighting, they were extremely ferocious and much stronger than ordinary people. There have been cases in the past where the flesh of onlookers was chopped into paste during a battle. This is a very evil thing. Without a complete body, it is impossible to make a mummy and resurrect it, which is unacceptable to the indigenous people. Qin Mu looked at the player with bloodshot eyes and a ferocious face, and noticed something was wrong. This appearance and state reminded him of the war realm of Ares, the god of war in Greek mythology. And the current ruler, the second-generation pharaoh Set, also has the title of god of war. Not only war, but also desert and darkness are its domain. In other words, when these players have the desire to fight, they will be bewitched and put their ideas into practice. The reason why the indigenous people don't do that is because they really only have one life. Death is not scary. What is scary is that there is no way to be turned into a mummy after death and resurrected from the dead. Qin Mu smiled slightly, with a terrifying arc at the corner of his mouth. Seeing his appearance, the players around him shuddered. Since you want to die, I'll give you a ride. Qin Mu was at the 8th level of the Qi refining stage, so beating them was like playing. There was no need to use any sophisticated or complicated magic, just a strong physique and a quick flash to knock several people to the ground. He originally wanted to beat several people to death directly, but he held back a little when he attacked. It's not that I'm afraid of killing, after all, players won't really die. He just thought that the experiment of transfiguration might have to rely on them to perfect it. If the unfinished transfiguration is used on oneself, there is no telling what unexpected things may happen. Maybe I would have to wait another day and night, which would not be worth it. Thinking of this, Qin Mu looked at the people on the ground with a smile on his face. At this time, they were hit in the vitals, collapsed to the ground, twitching all over, and couldn't get up. This gave him the opportunity to experiment. I won't be distracted by these guys running around. He stretched out his right hand, which was twisted and tangled like a vine, and extended his well-proportioned fingers, and tapped lightly. A white light flashed by, silently and at such a speed that people seeing it thought it was an illusion. But after a moment, the first unlucky guy appeared. The player's body squirmed in a peculiar movement, and in the eyes of everyone, he turned into a strange creature that looked like a horse but not a horse, and a cow but not a cow. The player seemed to be aware of what was happening to his body and he used his hands to support himself, trying to stand up and speak. But when he looked closely, he realized that his hands were clearly animal hooves. I wanted to speak and scream, but no sound came out. I could only make humming sounds. Not dead, that's not bad, it's a good start. Qin Mu smiled, but the smile froze the next moment. The player collapsed to the ground, with flesh, blood, bones, and various organs scattered on the ground. It was a lively scene. If it weren't for the fact that these organs were still emitting hot steam, I would have thought that they were cows or sheep being slaughtered there. It seems that I have failed. Let's try another approach. Qin Mu frowned and began to reflect on which step went wrong, then made modifications and experiments. He wanted to become a horse, but from the look of his face, one could tell that he was a million miles away from that. Moreover, his appearance and behavior made him look like a complete devil in the eyes of other players and natives in the tavern. "Run, everyone, run! This is a demon, an evil demon that turns people into beasts. Great God, please save me! I don't want to become an ugly and twisted monster. What should we do? If we are killed by him, we will never be able to enter the underworld. He will definitely turn us into disgusting monsters." The natives were terrified. They shouted loudly and ran out of the tavern in a hurry. The players were much bolder. They picked up their weapons, eager to try, and surrounded Qin Mu. "Brothers, the boss is here, come on, maybe some good stuff will drop." A player shouted loudly, making a move to rush forward. After waiting for a long time, he didn't take a step forward. "What's wrong with you? You're all standing here motionless," he said with a slightly red face. "Why don't you charge? You want us to go up and test it, and then you can reap the benefits, right?" said another burly player with disdain on his face. "They are all 1,000-year-old foxes, and they have many evil intentions." For a moment, everyone was in a stalemate. Of course Qin Mu would not let go of these experimental materials. Those who love peace and don't want to fight have already run away, and the rest are probably the aggressive ones. They can afford to die once or twice. Chapter 188. The originally bustling tavern was now filled with wailing and explosions. Qin Mu's constant experiments have caused players to suffer torture and pain. Some were covered in blood and scattered on the ground in pieces. "You were in me and I was in you," very intimate. Some of them have distorted bodies and are no longer human-like. Some have animal shapes, some have human shapes, and some have both shapes. It is indescribable. In just a short while, more than 20 players were consumed. Qin Mu was still a little unsatisfied, but unfortunately he had no more experimental materials to use. Listening to the heavy footsteps outside, he knew that some force must have come and surrounded the tavern. "I just don't know whether it is the players' side or the indigenous people's side." Bang! The closed door was knocked open, and countless black-armored soldiers wearing armor and holding spears walked in. "It is the power of the indigenous people." He looked aggressive and had a cold face, and didn't seem like he was there for peace talks. Among a group of black-armored soldiers, a strange creature with a human body and a snake face walked out, looking down at Qin Mu with a majestic aura. "I am Acharu, the Snake King, one of the 72 subordinates of Set, the god of war and desert. You ugly and lowly demon, why don't you surrender?" The human snakehead named Acharu was the leader of this group of soldiers. Upon hearing the news, he came specifically to capture Qin Mu. His snake eyes were like water, deep and dark, faintly emitting a strange light, as if he was staring at a weak prey. His head and body are in the shape of a snake, his tongue is long and flexible, and his face is covered with snake scales that emit a green glow under the sunlight. It was also the first time that Qin Mu saw this kind of humanoid creature. He was a little surprised and looked at it curiously for a few more times. This is because it is a unique creature in the Egyptian mythological world. It may exist in other mythological worlds, but it is definitely rare. Acharu was very annoyed when he saw that Qin Mu was unmoved and just stood there ignoring him and instead looked at him unscrupulously. He waved his hand and shouted, "Go ahead, capture him. If he resists, strangle him right on the spot." The Black Armor Guards are an elite force trained by Acharu, and they are very fast in action. In a blink of an eye, they surrounded Qin Mu and slowly moved closer, trying to capture him. Qin Mu was not afraid when he saw this. These black-armored warriors were very elite, but they were facing a demigod-level cultivator. Ordinary players may be helpless and unable to resist them. But who is Qin Mu? The cultivation level of an 8th-level Qi refiner is close to that of a god. No matter what method is used, this group of soldiers can be easily dealt with. Only the leader Acharu can give him a little sense of crisis. The originally hideous and terrifying arm turned into a jade-like work of art in the blink of an eye. This is the result of his research just now. Those players' lives were not wasted. Qin Mu stretched out his slender jade-like finger and tapped lightly, and the soldier's body suddenly swelled up. In just a few breaths, it grew into a terrifying monster over 3 meters tall, with pink flesh exposed all over its body. His appearance is a bit like the Lost Tyrant, and his eyes are the same, bloodshot, tyrannical, cruel, and bloody. The soldier at this moment had lost his mind. When it transformed into a huge monster, its consciousness could not bear the strength of the body and it collapsed and dissipated. This body is similar to a zombie, but is under the control of Qin Mu. This huge change really scared the black-armored soldiers in the room, and they all pointed their spears and lances at the huge monster. It's not that Qin Mu isn't scary, but the monster transformed from this soldier seems to be more powerful and aggressive. His mouth was full of fangs, his face was hideous and terrifying, his body was covered in blood, and he made low growling sounds from his mouth, as if he was ready to attack others at any time. A black-armored soldier who was close by couldn't bear the sight of this horrible monster and stabbed it with his spear. Swish! The spear went in unexpectedly smoothly. But this time, it hurt and angered the transformed flesh and blood monster. Hold head high! A huge roar accompanied by the smell of blood spread throughout the tavern in an instant. The black-armored soldiers were shaken to the ground, with stars in their eyes. The wine bottles and glasses in the tavern were also shaken to the ground and shattered into pieces. Under Qin Mu's indulgence, the flesh and blood monster released its nature and brutality to the fullest, and grabbed a soldier nearby and tore him in half. Qin Mu watched this scene and found it very interesting. His original intention was to restore the shape-shifting technique, but after some exploration, he developed a new way to play. It is really interesting to transform living beings, tamper with their flesh and blood, and turn them into terrifying killing machines. With just a click of his fingers, a ruthless and cold-blooded giant beast of flesh and blood would appear and serve him. In this way, we will not be afraid of rotation warfare and human wave tactics. However, for someone of his strength, it doesn't seem to be very practical, it can only be said to be okay. But Qin Mu didn't care. After all, it was just a practical trick developed, and its main purpose was to restore the transfiguration technique. Stop it right there! Achuru was very angry when he saw his soldiers being slaughtered wantonly. He could see that this flesh and blood monster was not that strong, it was just fearless and had a huge body, which made people intimidated. But the black-armored soldiers who faced the flesh and blood monsters did not have this vision. After a fierce battle, the army was completely defeated. Seeing that defeat was inevitable, Achuru's snake eyes turned cold, and he opened his bloody mouth, revealing his sharp fangs. In the deep red mouth, a fist-sized bulge kept expanding and contracting, as if something was about to burst out. Swish! A thick white smoke gushed out like fog, sweeping across the entire tavern and spreading throughout the tavern. In an instant, the flesh and blood monster that was sprayed melted instantly like ice and snow meeting hot water, leaving only bone fragments and foul-smelling blood on the ground. Qin Mu, who was standing by, was not hurt at all. He was dressed in linen clothes and had an ordinary temperament. After his adjustments, his appearance had regained its previous horror and now looked like an ordinary aboriginal. But Achuru didn't think so. Instead, alarm bells rang in his heart. His venom is so insidious and vicious that anyone who is sprayed by it will surely die. Even gods would not want to be contaminated by it. This is the great power bestowed upon him by Set, the god of war and desert. But Qin Mu was fine. What he didn't know was that Qin Mu covered his entire skin with energy the moment he opened his mouth. He used the art of shape-shifting in new ways. He has not just one layer of skin, but 3 layers of skin. As long as he cannot stop Achuru's venom, Qin Mu will escape instantly and flee thousands of miles away. But when he came into contact with the venom, he found that it could not penetrate his defense. Of course, it's not that the energy cannot be broken, but it's also that the flowing energy field is not broken. As we all know, energy flows, and when Qin Mu covers it on the surface of the skin, it flows as fast as water. After the venom turned into mist, it was too light and was blown away by the breeze caused by the flow, and could not drip onto Qin Mu's body. Chapter 189. In the pub, everything was quiet. Achuru looked frightened, his face full of panic that he couldn't hide. It was the first time he encountered a being that was not afraid of his venom spray, and he didn't know how to deal with it at first. Qin Mu had a calm expression and deep eyes. Just raise your hand and move freely. The jade-like finger pointed directly at Achuru, making his hair stand on end, his bones stand on end, his scalp tingle, and a chill rush from his coccyx to the top of his head. Without saying anything more, he moved as swiftly as the wind and ran out of the tavern in an instant. Qin Mu retracted his fingers and blew away the non-existent green smoke. Using shape-shifting on ordinary people can be leisurely. For a powerful orc like Achuru, who is comparable to a 6th-level monk, it still doesn't have much effect. His body is strong and his genome structure is stable and difficult to change. What I did just now was just a trick on him. I didn't expect him to be so timid and just ran away. The 72 subordinates of Set, the god of desert and war. Qin Mu also knew that the place where he was now was the territory led by Set. If a Chiru is killed, it would be a slap in the face of Set, and Set might even take action himself. At this moment, his expression changed and he turned into a bird and flew away quietly from the window. A powerful divine force surged over like a tide. This divine power is filled with an ominous aura, as if it contains endless disasters and wars. As long as you get close to it, it will go against prosperity and strength. The eyes of Set, the god of war and desert, were fixed here. But Qin Mu is not afraid, because the upper limit of his transformation skills is extremely high, and he can even hide it from gods. His magic is not as simple as an illusion, which can be easily seen through at a glance. Transfiguration not only changes the shape, but also the body's blood, flesh, and cells aura, changing everything from the inside out. Sure enough, Set did not notice Qin Mu, who had secretly left. The people guarding outside thought he was just an ordinary bird that had accidentally entered the tavern and was frightened by the fight inside and ran away. After flying a long distance, he turned into a human form again. This time he transformed himself into an ordinary person, the kind that no one would notice if he walked on the street. Stop and go along the way. Feel the customs, human geography, habits, and customs of this world. Although the streets are very deserted, some areas are not affected and are still very bustling. There are fruits, candied dates, and all kinds of snacks being sold on the roadside. There are many shops on both sides selling all kinds of things. I stopped and walked along the way and saw a lot of new and interesting things. It's just a pity that in today's Egyptian mythology world, there are no pyramids or mummy worship. It seems that such customs only arose after Osiris died and was resurrected by the magic goddess Isis. Make way, everyone, get out of my way. A team of ferocious and aggressive patrol guards came over, and people along the way moved to the side as if they were avoiding a disaster. Qin Mu was wearing a linen shirt and a white cloth on his head. He had an ordinary appearance and stood aside with the crowd. He thought these people were here to arrest him, but after listening to the conversation of others, he realized that they were actually looking for the magic goddess Isis. Some time ago, the magic goddess Isis ran to Set's palace and secretly stole Osiris's right hand. In this way, the 13 bodies are completed. As long as the magic goddess Isis can escape from the city with her right hand and cooperate with the Bible of Death, she can resurrect her beloved husband. According to the original plot, Osiris' body should have been found and resurrected long ago. But with the intervention and disruption of players, everything was turned into a mess. As a result, Osiris remained in the underworld and never returned alive. Qin Mu didn't expect this to happen and immediately found it very interesting. Opportunities are such a coincidence that he actually came across them. When no one was paying attention, he instantly used a golden mission opportunity. Unexpectedly, the arrow transformed from the golden mission opportunity flew straight to a woman not far away in the crowd. Qin Mu was stunned at first, then he understood immediately. If his guess was correct, this person should be the magic goddess Isis. Only a deity like her can allow golden mission opportunities to surround her. Only she, who is proficient in magic, can hide in the crowd and make Seth and herself unable to find her. Qin Mu thought that everyone around him was an ordinary person, but he didn't expect that there was a goddess who was hiding her identity like him. This person is one of the 9 pillars of gods. The most knowledgeable and powerful of the goddesses. She was clever and intelligent, and knew the true name of the sun god Ra. This is equivalent to ordinary people having nuclear bombs. She can create the world or destroy the world, it all depends on her thoughts. Qin Mu really wanted to try out whether the rumor was true, but he was afraid that if he really destroyed the world, it might cause some disaster. The soldiers let everyone leave only after they had finished searching. The magic goddess Isis looked like an ordinary woman, wearing a veil on her head and holding a basin of clothes in her hands. Qin Mu suspected that what she was holding was the final body of Osiris. However, the magic of Isis, the goddess of magic, was too sophisticated for him to see through, and he could only observe based on his guesses. He followed the footsteps of the magic goddess Isis, turning left and right, and came to a remote alley. There aren't many people here, but there are so many things and the roads are complicated that it's easy to get lost if you're not careful. Qin Mu followed for only a few blocks before he realized he was left behind. The street ahead of him was empty, the magic goddess Isis had long since disappeared. When Qin Mu was considering whether to use the mission opportunity to search, his neck was suddenly grabbed. Those were a pair of delicate hands with skin as white as mutton fat jade, like a perfect creation, crystal clear and flawless. What's more amazing is that the palm that was pinching him contained a powerful magical force, which blocked most of Qin Mu's abilities. Qin Mu was only slightly surprised, then relaxed. The fact that the magic goddess Isis did not kill him immediately meant that there was still possibility of negotiation. Who are you? Why are you following me? There was a hint of coldness in the voice of the magic goddess Isis. But when it reaches Qin Mu's ears, it is still so beautiful and moving, like the sound of nature. Qin Mu couldn't help but sigh, these gods are just good, with noble birth, excellent qualifications, and extraordinary looks. When you are born, you are standing at a height that others cannot reach, a height that is difficult to reach in your lifetime or even countless lifetimes. No matter which aspect, it is so perfect, so noble, and elegant. Even if she was pinching someone's neck, it still couldn't conceal her infinite charm. However, Qin Mu just sighed like this and didn't have any big thoughts about her. Qin Mu feels that he is doing pretty well now. As long as we can proceed step by step and develop steadily, maybe we can reach their level and touch the realm of gods. By then, everything from immortality to moving mountains and filling the sea will become possible. However, these gods can only stay in their own world, while he can travel to countless worlds. Chapter 190. Qin Mu raised his eyes and glanced at the magic goddess Isis. She has blonde hair and golden eyes, skin as smooth and delicate as silk, high eyebrows, and an indescribable charm. Her figure was hidden within the linen clothes, and her features could not be seen. You can Qin Mu read countless abilities and see the graceful and proud figure at a glance. I just wanted to come and see the criminal wanted by Pharaoh Set. After all, the enemy of my enemy should not be considered an enemy, Qin Mu said calmly. The first pharaoh Osiris was dead, and the second was naturally Set, who killed his brother to take the throne. The magic goddess Isis stole Set's hidden right hand, which led to Set chasing her all the way. Isis has the real name of the sun god Ra, but she cannot use it because it is too powerful. The sun god Ra does not allow her to use it at will. After listening to Qin Mu's words, the magic goddess Isis looked into Qin Mu's clear and deep eyes and slowly loosened her white jade-like palm. Just now, the magic goddess Isis used magic to find out the news about Qin Mu. He is indeed a wanted criminal wanted by the whole city of Set. The enemy of my enemy is not necessarily my friend. Isis looked at him deeply. The person in front of me is very dangerous. What was done in the tavern was evil and lawless. She had only seen this kind of thing happen to those who were called the return of the dead. Thinking of the players, the magic goddess Isis felt a little headache. These guys are not afraid of death and have different personalities. No one knows what they will think or do. Her subordinates gathered a group of people of this kind, who did things by any means necessary and helped her find several pieces of her deceased husband's remains. On Cassette's side, there are even more players, looking for her everywhere like vicious dogs, trying to ruin her plan to resurrect her deceased husband. Some disgusting guy was even prepared to try to eat his husband's body after finding it. If the bodies of gods were not so difficult to destroy, ordinary people would not be able to cut them open or digest them, and they would probably have all gone into their stomachs. Are you also a dead person? Asked Isis, the goddess of magic. I didn't want to ask at first, but through the magical information I found that he did have some skills, and maybe he could help me escape from the city-state and escape from Set's territory. In this capital, Set controls everything in the kingdom. Magic circles and restrictions restrict her from exerting her full strength. The real name of the sun god Ra cannot be used lightly. She promised the sun god Ra that she could only use it to resurrect Osiris. If used too much, it might bring unimaginable disasters to the world. Qin Mu smiled mysteriously and did not answer. The players in this world, who are mixed in with the four gods and causing trouble, still have a certain influence. The magic goddess Isis asked this, probably out of doubt. After all, there is no marking on the players' heads that they are players. As long as the appearance is the same and the customs, habits, names, and languages are similar, the natives can be fooled. Think about how to escape. Although we are all wanted, our great pharaoh Set wants to catch you more. Qin Mu said lightly. After finding the magic goddess Isis, he planned to follow Isis to leave the capital and stay away from Set's territory. Then watch the resurrection of Osiris, and preferably get the Book of the Dead. This Bible of the Dead is a famous divine book. It is said that if one masters this book, one can easily summon the souls of the dead in the underworld and resurrect the long dead. He still yearns for and desires this ability to control life and death. With the ability to summon the undead, he can create an army of sentient flesh and blood monsters. By then, maybe I can establish a vast empire in this world. Moreover, the Bible of the Dead deals with the realm of life and death. If Qin Mu is exposed to it early, he may be able to break through the realm of cultivation and reach the 9th level. Even for the 10th level, which involves the realm of God, it is of great help. There's no way to escape. The whole country is blocked off. The entire country is under Set's watchful eye. Any unusual movement will be discovered. Sighed Isis, the goddess of magic. Otherwise, how could she hide in the crowd? Qin Mu frowned, somewhat speechless. They are obviously siblings, so their strength should be similar. The result is that one of them is high above everyone else, looking down on the world. The other is hiding here and there, not daring to face it, like a rat crossing the street. Don't you have any other means? How long are you going to hide this? Qin Mu said speechlessly. It's not that he has no way to leave, but it's difficult for the magic goddess Isis to avoid Set's pursuit. Don't worry, my guard team will make a huge noise, and then we can take the opportunity to escape. Isis smiled faintly, bright and charming. She originally did not have a guard team. It was formed spontaneously by the players after they saw her stunning beauty and fell under her spell. Qin Mu opened her mouth but didn't say anything. He also saw on the internet that the goddess Isis has a guard team composed of bootlickers. But other goddesses also have it, not just her. However, he had some concerns about this so-called guard team. Can this kind of self-organized, undisciplined group really accomplish anything? As long as someone joins with ill intentions, all their whereabouts will be exposed immediately. But when he saw the magic goddess Isis looking somewhat smug, he thought it would be better not to say anything. I told you, don't think that you are meddling in other people's business when the time comes. After all, the two had only known each other for a few minutes and could not even be considered friends. What's more, this kind of divine being has different values from ordinary people, which may lead to misunderstandings. There will always be a way when you reach the mountain. Wait and see when the time comes. If there is any problem, remind her. During this time, several teams of guard soldiers passed by and questioned the two. Qin Mu's transformation was so seamless that ordinary soldiers couldn't detect it at all. The same is true of Isis, the goddess of magic, whose magical attainments are powerful and profound. The soldier made eye contact with her, and his memory and thoughts were directly tampered with. In this way, the two of them used their unique abilities to deal with group after group of soldiers. The magic goddess Isis also took a keen interest in Qin Mu's means of transformation. The art of transfiguration came from Loki, so it is very advanced. Your transformation technique can change the flesh and blood, and perfectly transform one person into another. It's incredible. Isis said in amazement with a gleam in her eyes. If she had the ability, she would have gathered the bodies of her late husband Osiris and fled the city-state. But she didn't, her magic could only change her appearance, and she would be easily discovered under Set's gaze. Chapter 191. Qin Mu was eating a watermelon, and after listening to Isis' words, he smiled faintly. Of course, I paid a lot for this. Well, yes. I just don't know how Loki is doing now. Qin Mu missed Loki in the world of Norse mythology. It's a bit absurd, like a dream. But the Egyptian mythology world is also good. The girl has a stunning appearance, a beautiful face, cool and attractive clothes, and a graceful and enchanting figure. Just looking at her is a feast for the eyes. Moreover, the resources here are abundant, including all kinds of fruits and foods, such as watermelon, pomegranate, wheat, dates, figs, and so on. With a wide variety of options, there is more to eat and more to enjoy. It's a pity that the change of dynasties, the fighting among the four gods, and the reckless behavior of the players have made the natives afraid to go out easily. Qin Mu and the magic goddess Isis hid in the city for a few days like ordinary people. During this period, Qin Mu got some information. Rumor has it that Isis's player-licking dog team also caused some trouble in the city, but unfortunately they were all suppressed one by one. It seemed that they came and went quickly, and they were surrounded and killed soon after they appeared. When facing an organized army, players are still unable to confront it head-on, let alone a group of scattered sand. It's okay in one-on-one fights, but in team mode, it's completely vulnerable. Just at noon, Qin Mu was lying on a stone pillar eating fruit, when a group of troublemaking players were eliminated right in front of him. These guys found a barrel of palm oil from somewhere and wanted to set fire to the city. But the flames were put out as soon as they started to rise, and the people were arrested and pinned to the ground, unable to move. Those players who surrendered or were captured had heavy chains on their hands and feet and were dragged to an area in the city. That is where Set, the god of war and desert, built his new palace. In Egyptian culture, pharaohs would build various wonders from the time they took office until their death. Set, the second pharaoh, was no exception. He loves to build all kinds of magnificent buildings. With the intervention and help of some players, the situation became uncontrollable. Where did this person come from? Of course he was recruited and captured. He recruited ordinary indigenous residents, and arrested those people who were devoted to his elder brother Osiris, as well as the players who were rebellious. Many players who were loyal to the other three gods were captured and suppressed, and civil engineering construction was carried out in the place full of yellow sand. Goddess, your guard team seems to be ineffective. This is the 8th batch they have captured. Qin Mu raised his eyes and looked at Isis, who was silent on the side. The magic goddess Isis had a calm expression on her face, and she was not surprised at all. She had already given up on the player's empty return. It's okay, it's just smoke, wait a little longer. When the time is right, I will take you away with me. I hope you will really be able to do it by then. After saying this, she covered her face with a thin headscarf and started fiddling with fruits and vegetables like an ordinary street vendor. Qin Mu's eyes rippled slightly. After glancing at the magic goddess Isis, he turned his head to look elsewhere. It seems that she does not put the confidence of escape on the players. But it's also true that the players' behavior is too scattered, and without chance and command, nothing big can be accomplished. I really don't know why the Lord of Grey Mist gives everyone the opportunity to enter the mythological world. Could it be that he really wants them to get married, have children, and reproduce? Qin Mu shook his head and put this ridiculous idea behind him. How could this be possible? It's too weird. Shouldn't you be like me, exploring everywhere, killing monsters and leveling up, improving your cultivation level? At night, the stars are shining brightly and a bright moon hangs high in the sky. Isis woke Qin Mu up and reminded him, "Get ready to go, our escort is here." As he spoke, he walked towards the alley. Qin Mu's eyes flickered as he looked at the back of the magic goddess Isis and slowly followed behind her. Entering the alley, I saw a beautiful figure standing there. Qin Mu glanced over, only to find that he couldn't see through the woman in front of him. Suddenly I realized that this was also a powerful goddess. She was thin, not too tall, with a beautiful face, but she was serious, like a glacier that had existed for thousands of years. She had delicate features, skin as smooth as white jade, a slightly raised nose, and deep, dark eyes that looked like an endless abyss at first glance. Her breath was dark and long, faintly emitting a breath of death and the fluctuations of the underworld. Based on the characteristics of her breath, Qin Mu directly determined that this person should be the wife of Set, the god of war and desert. Nephthys, goddess of death in this era, she is the only one who possesses the aura of the underworld. At the same time, Qin Mu couldn't see through it. The cold goddess of death Nephthys glanced at Qin Mu and spoke lightly. "Who is this? Why did you bring him here?" The tone was cold, without a trace of life. "Wherever I look, it seems like death is calling me." Qin Mu was at the 8th level of Qigong training, and it was difficult for him to bear this cold and dead air. Fortunately, it was only a moment before the goddess of death Nephthys withdrew her gaze. The magic goddess Isis said to her sister calmly, "This is the helper I found. He is a wizard with powerful witchcraft. It can change the flesh and blood of living beings, and manipulate and reorganize the shape and appearance of the body. With his help, my husband may be reborn without blemishes and defects." She actually just wanted to give it a try. The bodies of gods are different from those of ordinary people. They are great, sacred, and inviolable, and cannot be changed by ordinary people. But even if there is only a glimmer of hope, she is still willing to give it a try. Her husband, her brother, the great fertility god, the first pharaoh, should not be resurrected as a god without genitals. The dark eyes of the goddess of death Nephthys moved slightly, and a trace of fluctuation flashed across them. She understood what Isis was thinking. She also has feelings for Osiris. Otherwise, she would not have had an affair with Osiris, enjoyed their sexual pleasure, and even gave birth to an illegitimate child for him. This illegitimate child is now also in the underworld and his name is Anubis. She helped a lot when the magic goddess Isis wanted to resurrect Osiris. Thinking of this, a faint smile appeared on her dark red lips. Against the backdrop of the moonlight, it looked somewhat eerie and scary. Qin Mu looked at the interaction between the two sisters with deep eyes. As an outsider, he found all this very interesting. One is the legitimate wife who deeply loves her husband and works hard to revive him. The other one is the lover, who is also their sister. For some reason, she also gets involved, as if she is helping the lover to resurrect. Chapter 192. Qin Mu always assumes the worst of others. This is also to make myself alert. As for Nephthys, the goddess of death, he felt that this goddess was not as simple as she seemed. Under the pretty face and delicate skin, there seemed to be a twisted and terrifying evil spirit. Perhaps it was his illusion, or perhaps he just hated death. Qin Mu still classified her as a dangerous person and became secretly alert. There are many reasons and many possibilities. As the goddess of death, Nephthys can freely travel to the underworld. And who is in the underworld? Her lover Osiris. For this handsome and beloved elder brother, she betrayed her husband, Set, the god of war and desert. This shows how much she loves Osiris. But there was a magic goddess Isis standing between them, preventing them from being together all the time. Now that Osiris has died and fallen into the underworld, the two can be together forever. Why would she help Isis, the goddess of magic? Is it sympathy? Or help between sisters? Or maybe he felt sorry for his sister Isis and wanted to have an affair to make up for his mistake. In Qin Mu's view, all this is just an illusion, and her ultimate goal may be to destroy the resurrection of Osiris. As long as she disrupts the resurrection ceremony, Osiris in the underworld will become hers alone. At that time, Nephthys will have the opportunity to live with Osiris without having to worry about other people's opinions. The reason for this idea was that Qin Mu saw Osiris' reproductive organs being eaten by a catfish. This is a very strange thing. The body of a god is indestructible, and ordinary weapons cannot hurt it at all. How is it possible that the most important part of a man is eaten by a catfish? Is this catfish also a god? I'm afraid that's impossible. Judging from Qin Mu's dark psychology, it is very likely that this is Nephthys' conspiracy and plan. Think of Osiris, the revered and beloved first pharaoh, rising from the underworld. What would he think and what would he do if he woke up and found that his most important organ was missing? How could he have the face to continue staying in this world facing his wife who loved him deeply and those people who still admired and loved him? Of course, it is to return to the underworld, hiding silently in that place where no one is, feeling sad and painful. At this time, if Nephthys appears again to comfort him, the intimacy between the two will definitely improve by leaps and bounds. Thinking of this, Qin Mu smiled slightly, his expression inexplicable. As long as you give me the Bible of the dead that you want, I will do my best to help the god of plenty recover his body. By then I will definitely be able to return you a complete and healthy husband. After he finished speaking, his eyes sparkled as he glanced at the two goddesses. The magic goddess Isis already knew this, so she was not surprised and looked calm. The eyes of the goddess of death, Nephthys, turned cold, but she quickly hid it as if nothing had ever happened. If that's the case, then I'm relieved. My brother is missing a part of his divine body. It will be very difficult to revive him. It would be best if he could be restored to his original form. The cold voice coming out of her mouth had a unique sense of chilliness. Qin Mu didn't say anything, but just looked at her with a smile, a hint of teasing in his eyes. Regardless of whether Nephthys had ill intentions or not, Qin Mu was not very scared. This kind of drama of two women fighting for one man is what he finds most interesting. If the goddess of death Nephthys had bad intentions, Qin Mu would reveal the matter and let the two sister goddesses fight each other. Just think about it, how interesting it would be if two stunningly beautiful goddesses were together. Nephthys had a sullen look on her face as she led the two of them forward. There were several guard posts in the middle, and the people in charge were all one of Set's 72 subordinates. But under the leadership of Nephthys, they easily concealed themselves from them and avoided detection. Qin Mu looked at her and felt that she was a character. She looks pure and beautiful, but in fact she is very deep inside, with a heart of a vicious snake. When Seth and Seth were married, they probably started planning their escape route. Otherwise, how could he know all the information about Seth's men? It must have taken a lot of hard work, exploration, and understanding to get such complete information. If a couple is of one mind, how could they do such a thing? The stars shine, and the sky emits a faint light. After walking along the way, the three of them arrived at the foot of a city wall. The city walls were tall and thick, with countless complex rune lines, and strong energy fluctuations were flowing endlessly. Invisible energy fluctuations, like a flooding lake, created ripples in the void. Qin Mu lowered his eyes, but stood tall and unshakable. Being impacted by energy fluctuations, it is like a small boat in huge waves, which may be overturned at any time. This is a newly built defensive wall specifically designed to target gods and various powerful creatures, preventing them from entering and exiting freely. It is also Set's unique method to prevent Isis from escaping and entering. There is only one gate in this solid city wall, and the gate is guarded by powerful soldiers, and Set's divine eye is also watching it closely. Therefore, the three of them could not go out through the main gate and had to use other methods. The magic circle in the city wall will be repaired after a period of time, and I will take you out. Nephthys said coldly. As the goddess of death and the underworld, she can open a passage to the underworld and make a brief jump in time and space. Previously, the magic goddess Isis was sent in by her using this method. The three of them sat quietly waiting, and were speechless for a while. Isis was so focused on resurrecting her husband that she was in no mood to talk. She just held the severed hand and stroked it back and forth. The goddess of death Nephthys is different. Her cold and beautiful face is extremely silent, as if she has no interest in anything. Qin Mu wanted to speak, but when he saw these two people, he didn't know what to say for a moment. Buzz! The magic circle on the city wall roared and flashed with invisible energy fluctuations. Only powerful creatures could feel its changes. In an instant, in Qin Mu's perception, the energy fluctuations of the magic circle dropped from high to low, but in a flash, there were signs of rebound. Go! Nephthys's cold voice sounded again. She just pointed her pale finger into the air, and a black vortex more than 1 meter high appeared on the wall. The vortex rotated clockwise, an ominous black mist rose up, emitting bursts of cold and deadly air. Qin Mu followed behind the two goddesses, his figure flashed, and he rushed in instantly. As soon as he stepped in, the black vortex disappeared without a trace. Chapter 193. The cold wind blew, and everything seemed to return to calm. But at this moment, a scarlet gaze shone over from the sky. This gaze was cruel, terrifying, and bloody, as if it contained all the horrific power in the world. Wherever you look, living creatures are crawling on the ground, all things are terrified, and there is a terrible atmosphere as if a storm is about to come. BCH, I can feel your presence. I will find you. A cold and gloomy voice sounded, carrying with it raging anger and brutality. He is Set, the god of war and desert, who killed his brother and became the second pharaoh. As the sound faded, the army in the city-state rushed around and began a massive search. Most of Set's 72 powerful men were dispatched. Qin Mu shuttled through the darkness for a while, an endless cold aura wanted to invade his body. He was also familiar with the underworld, having been there before. Although that is the underworld in the Greek mythology world, it is basically the same. No living creatures are allowed to enter, unless they are powerful gods who can ignore this law. Under the repulsion of the laws of the underworld, Qin Mu is not only entangled by the corpse chi and death chi, but also pulled by endless ghost arms. These dead souls wanted to keep him in this underworld and make him a native ghost of the underworld. How could Qin Mu be willing to do that? He directly used the shape-shifting technique to tamper with and hide himself, and he was afraid that he would be lost in the underworld in an instant. The two goddesses did not help him in his plight. This is both a test and an indifference to the living beings below the gods. Fortunately, Qin Mu came out of the passage to the underworld safely. Seeing Qin Mu so carefree and relaxed, the magic goddess Isis did not pay much attention to him. Nephthys's black eyes flashed with a hint of surprise, but then returned to normal. Let's go quickly. Set must have noticed what happened in the city just now. Nephthys said coldly. Now that you two have left the city-state, your divine powers should have been restored. You can join forces to deal with Set. Qin Mu looked at the two goddesses and encouraged them. As soon as these words came out, the two goddesses looked at Qin Mu at the same time. No, Set is the god of war, and his strength is unimaginable. Moreover, he is now the pharaoh, the ruler of all living things. Only by resurrecting my husband, the god of fertility Osiris, can we fight against him and drive him off the pharaoh's throne. Seeing that Qin Mu didn't understand, the magic goddess Isis explained. Nephthys didn't say anything, but her eyes conveyed this meaning. Qin Mu was speechless after hearing this. It turns out there is such a huge gap between the male god and the goddess. No wonder Isis couldn't avenge her husband. When he was in the city, he thought that the magic circle on the city wall caused Isis's power to drop drastically, so he did not dare to take action and expose his whereabouts. It turns out that it's the same whether in the city or outside the city, we can't win. Thinking of this, Qin Mu suddenly felt bored. He was also thinking of letting these brothers and sisters fight each other just to watch the show. The relationships between these people are so complicated. They are relatives, husbands, and enemies who murdered their husbands. Wouldn't it be exciting to meet each other? Then let's leave quickly to avoid any more trouble. Qin Mu said. In the next step, his legs and feet moved like lightning and rushed into the distance. I heard noisy footsteps behind me, deafening and resounding throughout the world. You don't need to look back to know that they are pursuers sent by Set. The two goddesses also changed their expressions, their beautiful faces became solemn, they no longer held back their strength, and fled quickly. In an instant, two rays of brilliant light appeared, dazzling and extremely brilliant. The divine light cut through the sky and flew away into the distance. Damn, these two guys run too fast. Qin Mu looked at the two goddesses going away and hated himself for not flying fast enough. Laugh. 3 scarlet rays of light streaked across the sky, filled with endless brutality and blood, locking onto Qin Mu and the two goddesses. Qin Mu just felt his scalp tingling and goosebumps all over his body. This is the instinctive reaction of living beings when facing the crisis of death. Fortunately, the scarlet light that rushed towards him was dim and quite small, far less than the other two. Most of Set's power was used to pursue and attack the magic goddess Isis and his wife Nephthys. As for Qin Mu, he only allocated a small part of his divine power to block and kill. Qin Mu felt like he was being stabbed in the bone. No matter how he jumped, flew, turned, or dodged, he could not escape the fierce and brutal attack. After a flash of scarlet light, Qin Mu's figure disappeared from the spot under the attack, leaving only a huge hole. The cavity was dark and deep, like a giant upside-down basin, with no other matter in it. The air was silent and dead still. More than 10 meters underground, a half-meter-long black pangolin was waving its sharp claws and crawling forward with all its might. She. The thick soil was easily separated under the sharp claws like tender beans, leaving only a narrow hole. If I hadn't figured out how to change the structure and build the body of the gods in this world, I would have transformed into Zeus and fought him. Qin Mu cursed. When the attack was about to begin, he discarded 2/3 of his flesh and blood, transformed into a pangolin, and hid underground. Although Seth's casual attack could lock onto the target, it was still not smart enough to detect Qin Mu's method. Thinking that the bait of 2/3 flesh and blood was Qin Mu's real body, he destroyed it directly. Qin Mu was thus reborn and escaped from Set's gaze and pursuit. Qin Mu, who had transformed into a pangolin, stretched out for several thousand meters before finally starting to look up, ready to go out and check the news. Before reaching the ground, I could feel powerful waves of divine power colliding and interweaving, and the earth was shaking and trembling. Qin Mu immediately went back underground. It's not that he didn't want to go up and help, but without the ability to transform, he was powerless. It is difficult for ordinary creatures to get involved in the battles between gods. Only those powerful monsters born from nature, or offspring with the sacred blood of gods, have the capital to fight against gods. Players like Qin Mu are penniless and can only bully ordinary human natives. If your cultivation and strength do not reach the level of gods, you cannot get involved in the war between gods. Qin Mu could only pray silently underground, hoping that Isis and Nephthys would escape successfully. It would be even better if we could defeat Set directly. But this is just his fantasy, and we still have to wait for specific news about this situation. Fortunately, Qin Mu is not in a hurry, he has plenty of time. There is something underground. There are many minerals and some plant roots and tubers that he can eat. Chapter 194. So, when he had nothing to do, he would eat some cactus roots and other plants underground to restore the damaged parts of his flesh and blood. When you have free time, go dig some ores and try to make some suitable weapons for yourself. In the world of Norse mythology, the artifacts created could bring him a lot of help, which made him very excited. However, the rules of the world are different, and Qin Mu found that he did not have knowledge of the world's laws like runes. The weapons created cannot be called divine weapons, they can only be described as sharp and hard weapons. Time flies, the days and months pass by like a shuttle. The tremors on the earth lasted for 3 full months before they stopped, which also indicated the end of the war on the ground. Qin Mu crawled out from the ground, saw that there was no one around, and quickly changed into a grey bird and flew into the sky. Spread your wings and fear the wind and rain, the sky is high and the birds can fly freely. After a cry, it flapped its wings and flew into the sky, overlooking the earth. The ground was full of potholes, with obvious holes of varying sizes, as if it had been plowed by someone. Looking at the scene on the ground, Qin Mu couldn't help but click his tongue. They were really beaten too hard. It was estimated that the three siblings were really angry. I just don't know who won, but it was probably Set. After all, as the god of war, Set has extraordinary combat power and his attacks are fierce and brutal. Qin Mu swooped down and landed among the troops that were not far away. He transformed himself into an inconspicuous squirrel and hid himself. He jumped up and down, moving back and forth between branches and the ground, inquiring about the final outcome of the war. But the final result was pretty good and in line with Qin Mu's ideas. Although Seth won, he did not capture his two sisters. Isis and Nephthys managed to escape and their whereabouts are unknown. As long as he wasn't killed or sealed. Qin Mu muttered to herself and chanted strange magic spells, and began to contact the magic goddess Isis. This was the magic connection spell that he had finally obtained. After reaching an agreement with the magic goddess Isis, he asked indirectly about the magic and principles of this world. But Isis was unwilling to tell him and insisted that he complete the task before giving it to Qin Mu. This is mainly because before, the magic goddess Isis contacted the players and understood that they had to be hung with carrots. Today, Qin Mu is implicated by these players and cannot cast the magic spells of this world. However, after much persuasion, Isis finally gave Qin Mu a magic spell that allowed him to contact Isis when he was free. After Qin Mu got it, he found that it seemed like a magic phone, but it was not very convenient to contact others. The magic spell was directed at Isis and could only reach her, not the other gods. If Isis is in some mysterious area or is sealed, contact cannot be made. Fortunately, after he made some calls, the magic goddess Isis, who was somewhere far away, agreed to communicate with him. Somehow, two different consciousnesses were connected together. Qin Mu just thought it was very interesting, as if the two of them could communicate with each other through their thoughts. He took the lead in communication. "Hello, how are you? Where are you now? I'll come find you right away." The information was transmitted, but like a fish sinking into the sea, no one responded. Qin Mu was not discouraged and waited patiently. After a while, the magic goddess Isis replied. Her consciousness gave Qin Mu a feeling of exhaustion. After weakly sending an address, he quickly disconnected the link. Qin Mu touched his chin, his eyes flickering. It looks like the magic goddess Isis is not in a very good condition. Nephthys, who is with her, probably won't fare too well. One is an enemy who wants to revive Set, and the other is his wife who was seduced as a mistress. Qin Mu guessed that Nephthys should be the one who was beaten more badly. Now that the magic goddess Isis is so miserable, wouldn't Nephthys be even more miserable? If Qin Mu had been able to contact Pharaoh Set and knew the exact extent of Set's injuries, he would have wanted to join Set. With this address, Seth might even praise him highly, and might even give him the Book of the Dead. As a human being, you will get more if you have no conscience. However, Qin Mu believes that this address may not be real. If he took Set to this address to capture him, he might be discovered and abandoned by the magic goddess Isis. To think worse, you might step directly into a trap and be doomed. He won't really die, so he's not afraid of traps or anything like that, but he is afraid of splashing water. By then, he might have an irreconcilable relationship with the magic goddess Isis, and he would no longer be able to gain any benefits from her. Thinking of this, he suppressed the thoughts that came to his mind. Qin Mu turned into a grey bird again, and flew towards the designated address at an extremely fast speed as it was getting dark. Flying for several days. When dawn breaks and the light gradually emerges. Qin Mu then flew to a high and remote mountain. It is surrounded by mountains and shrouded in clouds and mist. There is snow on the peaks and winding rivers below. Qin Mu cried out, swooped down, and transformed into a human form again. However, his appearance has not yet fully recovered, and now he only has the cute appearance of an 8 or 9-year-old child. She is less than 1 meter tall, with fair skin and delicate features, like an exquisite doll. Qin Mu was not very satisfied with his current condition, but the discarded flesh and blood could not be replenished all at once. After arriving at the place, Qin Mu contacted the magic goddess Isis again. After the two consciousnesses were connected, Qin Mu clearly felt that the consciousness of the magic goddess Isis had recovered a lot. That's good news. This means that repair and resurrection of Osiris can proceed normally. And he will be able to obtain the Book of the Dead as soon as possible. You are indeed not simple. You actually escaped from Set's hands. I originally thought you were dead at the beginning. Isis's somewhat soft voice sounded. This is all thanks to you. If you hadn't entangled Seth, how would I have been able to escape? Qin Mu said nonchalantly. He knows exactly how capable he is. I'm here now. You're at the location you gave me. You can come out and pick me up. My appearance has also changed a bit, I hope you can see that. Okay. Isis replied and quickly hung up the link. Soon after, a mysterious wave emerged and swept Qin Mu up and down. Qin Mu looked calm and didn't care. This was probably a magical method used by the magic goddess Isis to check whether he had defected to the enemy. After a while, Isis's voice sounded in his mind, guiding him forward. The mountains are high and the wind is cold. Qin Mu walked very fast with his short legs, and soon he arrived in front of a wall. Following the instructions, he suddenly plunged in. Chapter 195. It looked like a thick wall of glacier, but when the body touched it, it was like a curtain of water with no resistance at all. Behind the wall was a dark and endless corridor. Qin Mu walked along the corridor for a long time, feeling that the world was turning upside down and the earth was spinning. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself in another strange place. Qin Mu looked around, his eyes moving slightly. When I looked up, I saw another world. The sky is high, the land is vast, and the snow is white. Under the sunlight, the Beishang Glacier slowly turns into clear spring water and flows downwards. The springs converge to form a broad and boundless river, meandering and flowing quietly into the distance. Come with me. Isis's clear and pleasant voice sounded, with an indescribable weakness in her tone. Qin Mu looked in the direction of the voice and saw a bright, charming, and graceful woman standing next to him. The woman wore a throne-shaped ornament on her head, and her emerald-green earrings shone brightly under the sunlight. On the bright yellow satin dress, patterns of the sun, moon, and stars were drawn with golden silk threads, and the close-fitting clothes outlined graceful curves. A pair of beautiful eyes, looking bright and beautiful. Her exquisite face, cascading hair, white collarbones, and plump waist all reveal her endless charm. Qin Mu smiled and praised, "You are worthy of being the goddess of magic. Your true appearance is so beautiful." He was not kidding. Among the many goddesses he had browsed, the unique charm of the magical goddess Isis ranked among the top 5. When Isis heard Qin Mu's praise, she didn't say anything and her expression remained calm. The most important thing for her now is to resurrect her husband. Everything else doesn't matter. Seeing that she didn't say anything, Qin Mu followed her complacently. Look at the environment and scenery while walking. In the dark, one could feel a powerful divine force enveloping this area. He wanted to ask, but felt that they were not yet that familiar with each other, so he closed his slightly opened mouth again. After walking for a while, we arrived at the hot spring on the top of the mountain. From the clear spring water, wisps of white smoke rose up, and in the spring water, an inexplicably familiar human-shaped object emerged in the lake. Qin Mu took a closer look, his eyes lit up with a hint of surprise. The humanoid object was the restored fertility god Osiris. The first pharaoh, husband of the magic goddess Isis. The incomplete corpse was put together and repaired, and the 13 different parts were connected with various magical materials, and it looked intact. Although he was dead, the god's powerful vitality made him look like a living person, just sleeping soundly. Qin Mu looked at his appearance and figure and couldn't help but praise him. He has regular features, a handsome face and a strong body. Soaking in the water, the naked body does not appear bloated, but instead shows a perfect figure and beautifully contoured muscles. This is my husband Osiris. Please first study whether you can help him repair his body. Isis looked at Osiris's body infatuatedly and said. Can I? Qin Mu found it a bit difficult. He lowered his eyes to stare at the lower part of Osiris. That is the most important place for men, but now it is empty, without even a single hair left. What a huge hatred and vengeance this is. But when I think about it, this guy didn't even let his own brother's wife go and flattered her, he doesn't deserve sympathy even if he was chopped into 10,000 pieces. He only targets people he knows and doesn't care about anything. But now is not the time to talk about this. Qin Mu tried to use the magic of shape-shifting to manipulate and decompose and reassemble Osiris' body. I tried it and found that it didn't work. The body of Osiris is full of powerful divine power, like a barrier, blocking the invasion of all external forces. After getting the results, Qin Mu shook his head at Isis and said, give me some time to study it carefully. As the first-generation old king, Osiris's divine power is too strong. I must find a way to suppress it so that I can transform his divine body." After saying that, he asked curiously, "Where is the goddess Nephthys? Why can't I see her?" Qin Mu was a little curious and asked. "She went back to the underworld to recuperate, and the body of Osiris has been found, so she is not needed here," Isis said calmly. Her tone was flat and no emotion could be heard. "Then you should study it carefully. I also need to prepare some materials to revive my husband." After saying that, he turned and left. Qin Mu raised his eyebrows, looked around with deep eyes. Although there was nothing around him, he could clearly feel that several cold eyes were staring at him. "If you do anything illegal, you will be attacked violently." But he didn't care and sat cross-legged beside the spring. He seemed to be sitting cross-legged, his small fingers constantly gesturing in the air, but in fact he was trying to improve his shape-shifting technique. Without the support of the laws of Norse mythology, the laws and knowledge of this world are incomplete, requiring him to try and explore bit by bit. Every bit of progress represents his in-depth understanding of biological knowledge and research. He believed that one day he would be able to bypass the powerful protective shield of Osiris' body and modify his divine body. It's just that this step is a bit difficult and a bit far away. Apart from sitting in meditation and studying the art of shape-shifting, Qin Mu spends his days eating, drinking and wandering around. He tried to lure out Isis's backup plan, but found that there were 7 terrifying black scorpions guarding the place. Although they are not real gods, they possess powerful divine powers and can be said to be part of a god's creation. The image of the scorpion reminded Qin Mu of the legendary Scorpion King in the movie. These 7 shiny black scorpions have indestructible bodies, extremely strong shells, and sharp tail needles that flash cold purple light. If you are pricked by the tail needle, it will be extremely painful and you will feel worse than death. As long as Qin Mu doesn't offend them or tease them, they will just stand there blankly like robots. As there was no progress on the body of Osiris, Qin Mu changed direction and began to study the 7 scorpions. Through Qin Mu's research and exploration, it was discovered that the scorpion was a part separated from another strange god. Judging from the memories explored in the flesh and blood of the scorpion, that deity should be a goddess with a human-like scorpion body. The upper body is in the shape of a woman, and the lower body is in the shape of a scorpion, which is quite interesting. However, in Egyptian mythology, it is very common for gods to have this appearance. The gods in the Egyptian mythology world, except for the Ennead gods, are mostly natural gods. There are people with cat heads, leopard heads, eagle heads, and so on, which fully demonstrate what natural gods are. Chapter 196. These gods are also very powerful and possess a variety of abilities. Controlling animals is one of them. After Qin Mu understood the body structure of Scorpio, he also made some modifications to his own body. On the surface, he still looks harmless and like an ordinary child, but in fact, a tail needle more than 1 meter long has already grown on his coccyx. The tail needle is highly poisonous and is made of a 1-to-1 structure. The toxin is extremely terrifying. Even if a god is stung, he will feel extremely painful and endure the pain that goes deep into his soul. This is also the first weapon that Qin Mu obtained after coming to this world that can cause damage to gods. Although it is not as powerful as in Norse mythology, it is also very powerful and exquisite. After studying the scorpion thoroughly, Qin Mu once again turned his attention to the body of Osiris. Osiris, the god of fertility, the great Ennead, and the first pharaoh, lay before him for him to study. He always lacked some sense of divine power and was unable to break through the barriers. Qin Mu felt that his own strength was not enough and he could not rely on his own strength to transform the body of the gods. After all, if he has the ability to transform the bodies of gods, doesn't that mean he can kill gods at will? After understanding the reason, he stopped wasting time and began to find other ways. He needed to find a stronger force that could counter the divine power in Osiris' body, so that he could break through his protective shield and transform him. As one of the 9 gods, Osiris has immense power, and ordinary gods cannot compete with him. Qin Mu thought about the several gods he had met, and it seemed that only the magic goddess Isis could do it. But she would definitely not give him divine power. She had been preparing to resurrect Osiris and could not make any mistakes. It was impossible for Qin Mu to give her his modified transfiguration technique. It would be too stupid to give his old skills to others. To put it bluntly, after the magic goddess Isis obtained his transformation skill, she might no longer have any use for him and exclude him. By then, all his efforts would be in vain. After much thought, Qin Mu thought of the great lord of grey mist, the supreme being that runs through and connects the mythological world. If I could borrow a bit of his power, maybe I could achieve what I want and take transfiguration a step further. Thinking of this, he began to communicate with the system, but unfortunately there was no response. In desperation, he turned his attention to his dozens of mission opportunities. Gold, orange, purple. There are so many of them, so densely packed, that if outsiders saw them, they would surely look at them in disbelief. It is not easy to obtain so many tasks, not to mention the golden tasks, which ordinary players have never even seen. But here at Qin Mu, it's like the awards hanging on the wall, with no end in sight. He tried to communicate and absorb these mission opportunities. With a thought, golden, orange and other mission opportunities turned into brilliant rays of light and flew into his body. Qin Mu was stunned, a little bit unbelievable. He didn't expect it to be so simple. It was as if the person knew what he was thinking and wanted to help him with all his heart. Qin Mu's thoughts flashed through his mind, and he forgot about this strange phenomenon in a blink of an eye. He naturally felt that the power in his body had undergone a strange transformation. It's just that he didn't know whether it was good or bad because it was beyond his imagination and thinking. Qin Mu performed the shape-shifting technique again, and invisible power fluctuations enveloped the body of Osiris. This time, his strength easily broke through the divine protection, and began to modify and reshape as if there was no hindrance. With the power of the great lord of grey mist, Qin Mu felt that the transformation was going exceptionally smoothly. Osiris, the god of fertility, was missing an important part, but fortunately the area was not too big. Qin Mu appropriated other organs and flesh from his body and transformed him. After a day and a night of processing, a new important part was finally transformed for him. It's just that some of his flesh and blood were taken away, making Osiris look a little thin, but you can't see it unless you look closely. During the transformation process, most of the power transformed from the mission opportunity was consumed and integrated into the genitals. Qin Mu didn't understand why this happened and just regarded it as normal consumption. In his field of vision, two different forces flowed in the body of Osiris, the god of fertility. One is the original divine power of Osiris, and the other is the power of creation of the Lord of Grey Mist. The power of creation was hidden so well that Qin Mu couldn't see it at all. More than half a year has passed, and Qin Mu has been guarding this vast area. When they were hungry, they would fish in the river, when they were thirsty, they would drink the spring water melted from the snow-capped mountains. They lived a simple life, with a sense of seclusion from the world. After Qin Mu had nothing to do, he began to practice meditation. Previously, most of the growth in cultivation was due to the improvement of holy water and holy fruit, and the foundation was not stable. During this period of practice, Qin Mu gradually discovered this problem and began to try to solve it. Practice the art of refining qi through regular breathing exercises every day to cleanse the foundation and source of strength in the body. The effect is not very big, but over time, there has been considerable progress. When Qin Mu closed his eyes to practice, the magic goddess Isis also returned with various magic materials and props she had collected. "Hey! You succeeded!" Isis's surprised voice came. "No, why does my husband seem to have lost a lot of weight?" Qin Mu noticed the scrutinizing gaze of the magic goddess Isis and quickly explained. "You can't blame me for this. I can't just conjure up organs for him out of thin air. This was created by using flesh and blood from other parts of his body. After you revive him, let him eat more delicious food to replenish his body." After listening to Qin Mu's explanation, the magic goddess Isis finally felt relieved. She walked to Osiris' side with nimble steps, her eyes exuding endless tenderness and love. There was a brilliant golden light in his eyes, as if he could see through the repaired parts and organs of Osiris. Qin Mu saw her cautious look and couldn't help but feel sorry for her. Her husband deserved to be killed for having an affair, but it was a pity that she risked her own life to find a way to resurrect her unfaithful husband. Although he sighed, Qin Mu did not forget the purpose of his visit. "I have already helped him shape his body. Should you show me the Book of the Dead?" Qin Mu made his request. Isis raised her slender, white neck and said calmly, "No, I will give you the Bible of the Dead only after I resurrect my husband." Chapter 197. Qin Mu raised his eyebrows slightly and glanced at her. "Okay, I hope you can keep your promise, but I want to watch your resurrection ceremony from the side." Qin Mu said lightly. "And please give me your magical knowledge. This shouldn't be too much as a reward for your hard work." He had plenty of time to wait. If the magic goddess Isis changed her mind, he would do his best to make her regret it. Isis's beautiful eyes flashed, and a thick magic book appeared in her hand. The appearance of the magic book is golden, with many mysterious patterns engraved on it, which looks very extraordinary. This is some magic I created. Let me show it to you first. Qin Mu reached out and took the magic book. He flipped through it casually and found that they were all low-level magic of natural elements. But he didn't care. This magical knowledge was very basic, but it could allow him to open the door to the rules of this world. With the reference, he can make references and gain a deeper understanding of the magical knowledge of this world. After getting what he wanted, Qin Mu turned around and left, went aside and started studying. Isis looked at her husband Osiris and put a lot of magical materials into the hot spring to nourish his divine body. After doing all this, she turned around and left again without stopping to look for more materials for resurrection. The price required to resurrect gods is extremely high and not something that ordinary people can afford. In the following time, Isis searched and explored many times and found many treasures. Unfortunately, part of it was hidden, and the other part was transformed by her into nutrients to preserve and nourish the body of Osiris. Set, the god of desert and war, did not give up trying to stop her. Several times, Isis returned here dying. Qin Mu's eyes flickered, his expression changed, and finally he suppressed his bad thoughts. He wanted to take action, just rob and run away, but when he thought about the fact that the 9 gods in this world were all one family, he held himself back. Although most gods have indifferent emotions and do not care too much about the affairs of other gods. But among the 9 pillar gods, if any of the 5 above wanted to help or retaliate, Qin Mu would be unable to resist. After weighing the pros and cons, he decided to suppress his thoughts. Be honest and practice step by step to improve yourself instead of always thinking about getting rich overnight. Although robbery is fun, it cannot be taken to other mythological worlds, so it is like a piece of chicken ribs. At that time, we must also prevent ourselves from being hunted down and retaliated against by other gods. Finally, one day 3 years later, the magic goddess Isis gathered all the materials and prepared to try to resurrect her husband Osiris. Originally, in order to avoid being disturbed by others, Isis wanted to take away Osiris' body and resurrect secretly. But this was discovered by Qin Mu, who changed Osiris's appearance into an ugly one and forced the magic goddess Isis to let him watch. The magic goddess Isis had no choice but to agree. The resurrection ceremony takes place in a remote place at the outermost part of the world. There is no sun or moon here, and the world is in darkness. There is no sun, moon, or stars, and no light. Everything is so hazy and chaotic. Qin Mu came to this magical place and understood the plan of the magic goddess Isis. This is a bit like jumping out of the 5 elements and not being in the 3 realms. The resurrection ceremony held here will not be disturbed by the laws of the world. Qin Mu moved his mind and restored Osiris's unparalleled handsome face. When the magic goddess Isis saw this handsome face, her cold expression gradually turned gentle. Without caring about Qin Mu, the magic goddess Isis began the preparation ceremony for resurrection. The first step was to mummify Osiris and to process and dissect his body. Qin Mu felt somewhat regretful when he saw this ancient and complicated method of mummification. If he had known how it was made, he would have definitely taken some of Osiris' flesh and blood for his collection. After all, the flesh and blood of gods contain a large amount of divine power and vitality, which is of great help to him. But it's too late to say anything now. He knew that if he went forward to steal some flesh and blood, he would be discovered and the magic goddess Isis would definitely chop him into pieces alive. So I could only stand there and watch her perform the operation with great pain. The magic goddess Isis held a black book full of the breath of death and the dead, chanted a spell, and smeared various materials on Osiris' body. Under the influence of various mysterious materials, Osiris' entire body was painted green, and he looked green. After everything is ready, the magic goddess Isis took out a sharp knife. The blade was only the size of a palm, silver in color, and extremely sharp. Qin Mu knew at a glance that this was a divine weapon, but he didn't know what it was called. In Isis's hand, the silver knife quickly cut open Osiris' chest and took out his internal organs. After all the organs were removed, Isis once again took out the unique material and rubbed it on them to seal them. At this point, Qin Mu saw something. He understood how the so-called resurrection ritual was performed. That is to transform Osiris' body so that he can bear the dead souls living in it. After all, if an ordinary dead soul enters the body of a living person, it will only cause a conflict between the energy of life and death and cause the flesh to rot. The souls of the dead will eventually return to the underworld due to the decay of their bodies and cannot survive long in the real world. Isis's operation is crucial, transforming the original body so that it can accommodate the dead soul. After the internal organs and vital organs were transformed one by one, Isis put the important organs back into the body little by little, restoring it to its original state. Qin Mu tried it quietly, and he was still able to operate on Osiris' body. This reassured him and he continued to watch the ceremony. It was the first time he watched the making of a mummy and he found it very novel. When Osiris' body returned to its original state, a burning light burst out from the eyes of the magic goddess Isis. She chanted the underworld spell quickly. This strange spell was vast and complex, so bizarre and strange that it made the listeners feel cold all over, as if they were in the underworld. Qin Mu used transfiguration to shed a layer of his old shell as a protective shield to isolate himself from the strange power and sound. In an instant, gusts of cold wind blew, freezing cold, as if they came from the netherworld. The sky was covered with dark clouds, and countless deathly energies condensed into a huge black vortex. Light was flowing in the black vortex, and there were inexplicably strange lights flashing, illuminating a narrow path. Chapter 198. Qin Mu looked up, his eyes flickering, and he could tell at a glance that this was the guiding passage from the underworld. Under the illumination of the light, the world of life and the world of death began to briefly intertwine and entangle, with light flowing and yin and yang reversed. A ray of golden light came flying from the underworld, cutting through the sky and bringing a ray of light to this chaotic world. Qin Mu could tell at a glance that it was the soul of Osiris, the god of fertility. In that light, there emanated the divine power that belonged only to Osiris. When the magic goddess Isis saw this scene, a hint of warmth appeared in her cold eyes, and her beautiful eyes were filled with tears, which made people feel very pity for her. The golden light flashed and rushed directly into Osiris' body, merging together in an instant. Upon seeing this, the magic goddess Isis immediately picked up the white bandage and wrapped it around his body. There was a strange light diffused on the white bandage, which made people feel relaxed and happy. This is to nourish the soul of Osiris, who has been in the underworld for a long time, and to promote the fusion of the soul and the body. After doing all this, the magic goddess Isis took out an exquisite coffin, which was covered with gems and magic circle patterns. After opening the coffin, Osiris' body was quickly placed in it and the coffin was closed. After doing all this, the magic goddess Isis finally breathed a sigh of relief and her brows relaxed. Congratulations, it seems that the resurrection ceremony was successful. Qin Mu congratulated with a smile on his face, as if in the spring breeze. Now that you have succeeded, can you please fulfill your promise and give me the Book of the Dead? Qin Mu's words broke the beautiful atmosphere and pulled Isis back from her joy. Isis frowned slightly, but still gave the Book of the Dead to Qin Mu. This Bible of the Dead records countless knowledge of the underworld. I don't need it for the time being, so I'll give it to you. The magic goddess Isis said lightly. After giving the Book of the Dead to Qin Mu, he turned around with the coffin and disappeared on the spot. Qin Mu didn't care and happily flipped through the Book of the Dead. The Bible of the Dead is a book that records various death rituals in the underworld. Reading and watching can give you incredible abilities and knowledge. As he scanned page after page, a large amount of knowledge poured into his mind. At this moment, Qin Mu was no longer unfamiliar with the underworld in Egyptian mythology, but was quite familiar with it and understood it well. He can also try to manipulate and borrow the power of the underworld. But this power is not of much use to him. He has extraordinary strength and does not need any external help. Most of the knowledge in the Book of the Dead requires borrowing and returning, so it is not difficult to borrow again. If you keep borrowing it, you will be marked and cursed by the underworld, which is not worth it. After memorizing all the knowledge and ritual experience, Qin Mu showed an evil smile. A few days later, a large number of copies of the Bible of the Dead appeared in major cities. This incident caused a huge uproar, and both the indigenous people and the players were extremely excited. That is what is recorded in the Bible of the Dead, a priceless treasure that is simply beyond the reach of mortals. But now it has been spread all over the world and is available to everyone. How shocking! Qin Mu walked along the streets and alleys, watching the bustling crowds coming and going. In secret, he could clearly feel that people in dozens of places were trying out the knowledge he was spreading. The city was filled with a mixture of death and obscurity, many times more dead than before. From time to time, guards wearing armor and holding spears patrolled back and forth in the city. Since the knowledge in the Book of the Dead spread, the security in the city has declined a lot. Not to mention outside the city, one had to be extremely careful when meeting people, for fear of being hit by a club and used as evidence. He, another excellent material has arrived. It's just right for me to make a vicious corpse, and the soul can also be used to make an evil spirit. A sinister voice filled with murderous intent sounded. I saw a bald man with scars all over his body. He looked cruel and brutal, staring at Qin Mu like he was staring at prey. Qin Mu pursed his lips and looked at the person in front of him with interest. Judging from the scars all over his body, he must be a desperado from somewhere. The bald man's mouth twitched and he chanted a spell. As the strange spell sounded, a chilling feeling enveloped the whole place. A dark and ferocious humanoid monster appeared beside the bald man, staring straight at Qin Mu with its inky black eyes. Tell him to come to me without causing any physical harm. The bald man snorted coldly, his eyes full of brutality. But his words didn't seem to have any effect. The dark and hideous monster stood there motionless, as if it hadn't heard anything. Qin Mu's lips curled slightly, and he smiled. It seems that he doesn't listen to you, why don't you let me give him the command and try? It was the first time that Qin Mu encountered someone using his own things against him. This monster was obviously created using the knowledge in the Bible of the Dead, and it didn't dare to approach Qin Mu, who owned the authentic copy. But he did not have the wisdom of a living creature, so he could not speak or show it, so he could only stand there, motionless. Damn it, why didn't you listen to me? The bald man had a ferocious look on his face and clenched his fists and hit the humanoid monster hard. After 2 bang-bang punches, he seemed to have thought of something and turned his head to stare at Qin Mu. Did you do anything to him? How could my soul-seeking ghost corpse not obey my orders? This is impossible. Qin Mu clapped his hands, and an invisible wave spread out from his hands. The soul-seeking ghost corpse seemed to be summoned, and its originally dark eyeballs flashed with anthropomorphic light. It suddenly turned around, and its strong arms grabbed the bald man's neck and locked it tightly. Die, damn it, you deserve to die. An unclear voice came out of the mouth of the soul-seeking ghost. The face, which was already bloody, dark, and twisted, became even more hideous and evil, and his eyes revealed a strong murderous aura. At this time, the soul-seeking ghost remembered what happened in his previous life. He and the bald man were originally slaves who were sent to a construction site, where they carried stones day and night to build wonders. One night, he was murdered by a bald man who was also his good friend. He was cruelly transformed into an evil corpse. After mastering it, he successfully used its invulnerability to swords and guns and its ability to not worry about life and death to break through the siege and escape from that area smoothly. No more having to work endlessly in the wind and sun day and night. But the days of hiding from place to place every day were too hard, which made the bald man evil-minded, and he planned to practice with more of these similar murderous ghost corpses. By that time, your strength will have greatly increased, and you won't have to hide from place to place and live in fear every day. Chapter 199. With a cry of awe, the bald man's face was filled with fear and his whole body was shaking. Blood gushed out of his thick neck, and under the strong pressure of a pair of arms, his face turned blue and purple, and he soon stopped breathing. Qin Mu watched all this happen calmly until the bald man died, then he turned and left. In his opinion, this matter was just a small episode and not worth paying attention to. The ghost didn't have much use for him, so he just left it there. Even if this murderous ghost is killing people everywhere, it is none of his business. Qin Mu changed his name to a doctor and lived in seclusion in a city called Turia. Here he treats patients during the day and practices breathing exercises at night, so his life is quite comfortable. During the simple days of treating patients, Qin Mu gained a deeper understanding of the changes in the human body structure and the various principles of life and death. For him, curing illnesses and saving lives is of little use. However, it can train his mind and shape-shifting skills. While he was living an ordinary life, the whole world was in dire straits. As the knowledge in the Book of the Dead spread, many people began to practice and apply it. This knowledge does not distinguish between good and evil, but the people who can use it are good or bad. Some of these players are lawless and imaginative, communicating with the underworld and trying to gain power. For players, the Bible of the Dead is truly a gift from heaven. Players are not afraid of life or death, side effects, or backlash. As long as they hold various sacrificial ceremonies, they can gain power. This is much more refreshing than most of the cultivation systems in the mythological world. Those spiritual practice systems either require meditation, breathing, or sitting in meditation, or they require learning and training. It's not like here, where people can gain powerful power by digging up human corpses and bones and ancestral graves according to the knowledge in the Bible of the dead. Some people even go to extremes and kill people alive, causing bloodshed and panic among the people. This series of events made the indigenous people of the Egyptian mythological world live in constant fear. Originally they had great expectations for death, believing that they would be resurrected after death and have a good life. But the reality today is that after death, the bodies are dug out and used as materials, and the souls are taken out as ritual sacrifices. It's not as beautiful as I imagined. For a time, the indigenous people also felt the danger and began to come into contact with and learn the knowledge of the dead. I hope to be immortal, or at least not become material or tool in the hands of others. In this situation, people become less trusting of each other. When strangers come into contact with each other, most people are wary. Everything seems normal during the day, but at night, those cemeteries are often visited by people with shovels. Some go directly on the road and randomly select their own materials. When Set, the pharaoh who ruled over everything and the god of desert and war, discovered this, he became furious. To him, these people were his slaves and subordinates. It is really wrong that instead of building various wonders and exquisite palaces for themselves every day, they kill each other. He immediately dispatched 72 of his men to suppress and search for the rebellion. In just half a year, many wizards who controlled the undead and drove the corpses were captured. After these people were cleaned up, only the elites remained. Not willing to be outdone, they gathered together and formed the Temple of the Dead, helping each other and jointly resisting the rule of Set, the god of war and desert. This also led to a significant weakening of the power of Set, the god of war and desert, in hunting down Isis, the goddess of magic. It was 10 years later when Qin Mu heard the news from the magic goddess Isis. During this time, the fertility god Osiris had risen from his coffin, his soul and body united, and he returned to the world. It is said that Osiris and the goddess of magic Isis had more than 10 children, and in their efforts to raise them, they were discovered. After Seth learned the news, he launched a large-scale war, but unfortunately ended in failure. But during this confrontation, Osiris saw his brother Set, and feeling ashamed, he returned to the underworld, leaving only the magic goddess Isis to look after the child. After special modifications, Osiris' body can perfectly enter the underworld without being harmed. Therefore, when he returned to the underworld opened its doors to him and directly granted him the supreme status of the Lord of the Underworld. Just because he is the first male god in the underworld. Before, he only had a soul, which made him incomplete. A broken god was not qualified to inherit the position of the Lord of the Underworld. Now, with the help of his wife, he has restored his physical body and by chance has become the Lord of the Underworld. The magic goddess Isis always raised more than a dozen children, and life was quite difficult. Fortunately, she was a deity, so she didn't have to panic. Qin Mu's days passed day by day, ordinary and down to earth. One day, his cultivation finally broke through again and he advanced to the 9th level of Qigong practitioner. After the breakthrough, he felt closer to the world, as if mountains were no longer mountains and water was no longer water. At this time, he received a message from Isis, the goddess of magic. It seems that there will be another storm. Qin Mu read the news about Isis and his eyes lit up. The eldest son of Isis and Osiris was named Horus. It combines the powerful victories of Isis, the goddess of magic, and Osiris, the god of fertility, and was born with extraordinary talents. This made Seth very scared, so he prepared to take action against him. The goddess of magic, Isis, had no ability to resist, and Horus had not yet fully grown. So Isis thought of Qin Mu, hoping he could come to help. Qin Mu certainly wouldn't refuse such a thing. The magic goddess Isis has a lot of good things in her hands. She has many advanced magics and the real name of the sun god Ra. Qin Mu even wanted to see how big the gap was between his current strength and that of the gods. According to Isis, she took her children to a place called Am. There is no war or conflict here, and the forces of Pharaoh Set cannot invade anywhere. But it's different now, when Set's eyes are fixed there, his evil army will move forward as well. Qin Mu packed up simply, not taking much with him, and headed alone to this distant place called Am. Fortunately, he refined a few flying swords for himself, which allowed him to travel through the sky, control the air, and fly to Am without a trace. The sword flew to the immortal, allowing Qin Mu to experience the joy of being a sword immortal. After several days of traveling, he finally arrived at this place called Amu. Am is located in a remote area, surrounded by desert. Only this place is an oasis with rich resources and abundant water sources. Chapter 200. Qin Mu followed the sensed breath and the given coordinates and came to the location of the magic goddess Isis. All I saw before me was a magnificent and grand palace, resplendent and luxurious. Before I even went in, I could hear the sound of children playing and fighting. It was very lively and noisy. As I got closer, I felt something strange in my heart. When he saw the appearance of those children, he felt a sense of closeness to them, which puzzled him. Could it be because I repaired Osiris' organ? No way, wouldn't that mean I would also be involved? Qin Mu muttered in his heart, looking carefully at the children in front of him. She is delicate and cute, and her clear eyes make her look very smart. Not to mention that they all possess the noble blood of gods and are full of potential. Although it looks like a child, it can run and walk, has great strength, and is much braver than the average adult. Who are you? Why are you here? A child who looked older ran over and stood in front of Qin Mu and asked. His pupils were very strange, shaped like a vortex. Qin Mu thought about it carefully and then remembered that this was the legendary Eye of Horus. This eye shape is widely used in games and animations and is very famous. Qin Mu looked at the handsome young man in front of him and said with a smile, "Your mother should be the magic goddess Isis. She invited me here." After hearing this, Horus remembered what his mother had said before. So that's how it is. My name is Horus, and I'm my mother's eldest son. He raised his head and said with some pride. Those are my brothers and sisters. They must listen to me. Although Horus is young, he has a domineering aura and is the eldest brother and king among this group of children. Qin Mu nodded. He looked at the group of children and couldn't help but sigh. The magic goddess Isis is so fertile. She is worthy of being a god. She has given birth to so many children in just a few years. If he is given some more time, he might be able to form an army of young gods. The palace gate opened, and a beautiful goddess with an unfamiliar appearance walked out. Where did you invite this helper from? Qin Mu looked up and down at the beautiful goddess. The goddess has a graceful figure, a slim waist, big breasts and a thick buttocks, which are very huge, like a walking wet nurse. But on second thought, it seems that only a goddess like this would have enough milk to feed so many children. Hello, my name is Hathor. The goddess nodded to Qin Mu and said politely. Hello, beautiful goddess. Qin Mu responded politely, but did not say her name. Asking means being cautious. Hathor, in Egyptian mythology, is the goddess of love and beauty, the god of wealth, the god of dance, and the god of music. She is extremely powerful, possessing unparalleled beauty and powers, and usually appears in the form of a cow. Qin Mu took a quick look and found that it was indeed very suitable for transformation into a cow. This figure and this figure are definitely made for breastfeeding. Qin Mu stayed here for a long time and found several other goddesses coming. One is a goddess with a cat's head, and the other is a goddess with a scorpion's body and a human head. Qin Mu was very familiar with the aura of this goddess with a scorpion body and a human head. He immediately knew that this was the original owner of the scorpion. Outside the palace, there live a large number of ordinary people and players. There are not many players, but they have many descendants. It is peaceful and tranquil here, and many calm players marry and have children here to reproduce. Over time, they slowly accumulate more and more. Qin Mu guessed that it wouldn't be long before the bloodline of the entire world would be replaced by players. But he didn't know why the Lord of Grey Mist created this function. Players are like the fourth disaster in this world. If used well, you can expand your territory and conquer the world. But the Lord of Grey Mist did not do so. Instead, he let them go and let them take on tasks and negotiate rewards on their own, and even allow them to get married and have children. This kind of freedom and behavior makes many people puzzled and unable to guess the specific intention. After all, the Lord of Grey Mist is too high and ethereal, too powerful, and it is impossible for mortals to guess his thoughts. In the past, his traces could still be occasionally encountered in the world of Greek mythology. But after the mythological world was opened, there was no news about the Lord of Grey Mist, or the god of plants, as if he had disappeared. After clearing the distracting thoughts from his mind, Qin Mu continued his practice. According to the magic goddess Isis, Set's army is already heading here and will arrive within a week. He planned to consolidate his strength during this period of time in order to prepare for the upcoming war. To this end, Qin Mu also asked the magic goddess Isis for a lot of high-level magic. In consideration of the upcoming war, Isis gave him some high-level magical knowledge, and the rest would be given to him as mission rewards. Qin Mu was not picky about food. Although it wasn't much, it was free, so he would rather eat it than refuse it. Wait until the war starts and take a look. If you can win, go ahead. If you can't, run away. Anyway, he can change his appearance at any time. At worst, he can just throw away this face and get a new one. Within a few days, many strangers appeared near Am. These people looked unfamiliar and it was obvious that they were from other places. Fortunately, in order to prevent Set, Am built a simple city to block all dangers outside, and these strangers could not enter freely. As time went on, there were more and more strangers, until finally, countless armies stood densely packed like black ants on the earth. There were many soldiers, wearing armor, holding spears, and fighting fiercely and majestically, giving people a great sense of oppression. Eminem also became very anxious in this atmosphere. Everyone felt insecure and the calm smile on his face was no longer there. Qin Mu was also awakened and began his preparations. He knew that this was a battle between mortals, and between gods and gods. What we need to do now is to help these goddesses resist the attack of Set's 72 men. This is not an easy thing to do. The strengths of these 72 subordinates vary, and their methods are strange, so no one can tell their specific abilities. Qin Mu summoned some soldiers and transformed them into giants over 3 meters tall. He tampered with the image of the Hulk, which looks very oppressive. I just don't know if Marvel Universe will come to collect his copyright fees after discovering it. Due to time constraints, he only converted 100 people. This kind of thing is like killing the chicken to get the eggs. It either consumes his strength or the vitality of the soldiers. With a great battle ahead, he naturally didn't want to waste his energy. Therefore, on the one hand, the vitality of these soldiers is consumed and their potential is squeezed, and on the other hand, they are given food to replenish their energy. It can prevent them from wasting their lifespan as much as possible. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.